The Knights of the Zodiac shine in Marvel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 126 Release Notice. The editor just told me that it will be on the shelves on February 1st. I thought it was too early, as it is only the 26th day of the 12th lunar month, but it turned out to be tomorrow. To be exact, it will be 12 o'clock tonight. There is no preparation at all. It is just put on the shelves so dryly and lazily. It is too sudden. I won't say any nonsense about bursting updates if I don't have any manuscripts saved. It just happens to be the Chinese New Year, so I guess it will be very busy. There will be the last 2 chapters for free today. I will work hard tonight and see how many I can code in the end. Now that it is on the shelves, I still hope that everyone can support it as much as before. 23 Thanks in advance. For those friends who want to say goodbye, let's part ways in peace. If you feel that the writing is not good, just click the cross, and don't scold me after reading the pirated version later. I sincerely thank all the friends who have read and supported me. Thank you. Because one chapter was swallowed by the river crab god, this notice will be counted as 128. Students who come late should not feel regretful, and the absence of that chapter will not affect the reading experience. Chapter 127 The Key to the Future. In fact, it is not surprising that Lizai would have the idea of returning to China to give away technology and equipment. After all, from Avengers 1 to Avengers 3, the armies that invaded the Earth were huge in number. The Chitauri in Avengers 1, the Iron Army of Ultron in Avengers 2, and the Vanguard Corps of Thanos in Avengers 3, no matter which one, were large-scale Legion operations. On the Earth side, Avengers 1 and 2 were fought by a few heroes of the Avengers, and in Avengers 3, the army of Wakanda was finally pulled out. But to be honest, although Wakanda has advanced technology and sharp equipment, it is almost equivalent to nothing when it comes to military tactics and tactics. Not to mention that it did not use thermal weapons to consume part of the enemy remotely. It actually rushed forward in a rush in the face of a reckless vanguard who was not afraid of pain or even death. What is the difference between this and the pig-rushing tactics of the Little East Asia who exchanged lives for lives? The country that claims to be the most technologically advanced country on the earth, with the unique rare metal vibranium, still uses this ancient charge tactic in the end. There is no formation and no coordination, just fighting together. Fighting for one is enough, and fighting two is profitable. This kind of war method did not exist in the Great Celestial Empire more than 2,000 years ago. If you randomly pick a primary school student, he will know the formation of the long snake, the formation of 2 dragons coming out of the water, the formation of the 3 talents, the formation of the 8 gates of the Golden Lock, the formation of the 9 bends of the Yellow River, and the coordination and positioning of the warrior, the mage, and the priest. The Black Uncles have never considered these things. Coordination, formation, it does not exist. The awesome vibranium technology has actually fallen into the hands of such a group of people. How long have the Black Uncles in Wakanda delayed the development of the Earth's technology? I am afraid that this number should be measured in centuries. So, how can Lizai feel at ease to leave the future of the Earth to them? This world will eventually need to be saved by our great celestial empire. Putting aside these long-term ideas, Lizai must first face the reality. The reality is that he successfully survived a night and dealt with Felicia without being 404. It is really gratifying. It seems that if you want to do something bad in the future, you still need to learn more knowledge. Massage chairs and the like are too low. In the morning, Lizai went to the headquarters of Stark Industries with a refreshed spirit. In the office, he met Tony, who looked a little dusty. I heard that you got into trouble yesterday? Tony looked a little depressed, but his body was fine, so Lizai said this with a smile. He was very relieved to see Tony embarrassed. Trouble? Didn't you watch TV? I beat that guy to pieces. It can't be called trouble at all. Tony sank into the sofa and responded with his neck stiff. He, Tony Stark, would never give in. Lizai shrugged. Then what are you thinking about? When I came in, I saw you sitting there with a deep face, as if your married life was not harmonious. What's wrong? Sister Pepper is too busy to pay attention to you recently. Tony rolled his eyes. He was thinking about something when he sat here in a daze. Before Zodiac came, he had just returned from prison. Ivan Vanko's identity made him a little suspicious, but the other party could make a micro-reactor almost the same as his, and knew about palladium poisoning, which meant that what he said was not groundless. P.S. By the way, the word originally meant a metaphor for news and legends that are not completely without reason, but because everyone has been using it as an antonym, that is, news and legends are groundless, the modern Chinese dictionary was forced to change its meaning to the exact opposite of the previous one when it was reprinted in 2012. This is the power of the people. So in the future, those friends who think that this word means the former, like me, please consciously change your mindset. We have been abandoned by the times. This discovery made Tony feel a little uncomfortable. Even if Ivan Vanko's identity is not discussed, his appearance also broke the unique sense of existence of Iron Man. His previous impassioned speeches at the hearing that mocked the senator and Justin Hammer became a laughingstock slapped in his face. At this time, on TV, the errant senator happened to be mocking with a gloating look on his face. It's unbelievable that when the devil escapes from the bottle, our hero is helpless. Tony Stark once vowed at the hearing that the Iron Man suit will not appear in other places within 5 to 10 years. It didn't happen in the past, it doesn't happen now, and it will definitely not happen in the future. However, this kind of suit has appeared without any suspense. Zodiac seemed to be watching the scene, poured 2 glasses of water with the Holy Grail, picked up a glass himself, crossed his legs and said, "So, don't you want to do something to fight back against this guy?" His face and the way he talks really make people want to beat him up. Tony subconsciously picked up the glass of water on the table, stopped it in front of his eyes, and murmured, "If God can bleed, people will no longer believe that he is omnipotent." Zodiac put down the glass of water. God is not omnipotent, because he cannot create a stone that he cannot lift. Tony rolled his eyes at Zodiac. "You come to me to pretend to be cultured after reading a few logical paradoxes? I'm a PhD from MIT, a high school student." Zodiac spread his hands. "Doctor is great. Guess if that fighting nation guy yesterday has a doctorate, he almost beat you up anyway. You better be careful next time we meet." Tony said, "He's in prison. It's hard to say if we'll meet again." Before Tony finished speaking, Jarvis' voice rang out, "Sir, I just received news that there was an explosion in the prison, and Ivan Vanko died in the explosion." Tony froze for a moment. An explosion in the prison? There are so many FBI and SID people here, how could an explosion happen? And it just happened to kill Ivan Vanko, who had just been imprisoned. Zodiac touched the hair on his chin. Maybe someone doesn't want his technology to spread, or he wants to. Zodiac and Tony looked at each other and said at the same time, "Keep it all to yourself." The explosion came too suddenly and was too strange. No wonder Tony thought so. As for Zodiac, she knew this would happen. Someone has already bailed Ivan Vanko out. As to whether this person is Justin Hammer, it still needs to be verified. Zodiac put down the water cup. "Let's not talk about him. Let's talk about something real. How is your research on the new element going?" At this point, Tony finally perked up. Although we had many misunderstandings before, I have to say that you really helped me a lot." After Zodiac told Tony that the model might have a secret, Tony made a special trip back to Los Angeles and found the stadium model left by Howard Stark in the office. As a result, on one side of the model, it was written directly, "The key to the future is here." Chapter 128, Visitors from the Divine Realm. Tony is very efficient. He has had enough of the palladium energy core in the current micro-reactor and can't wait to replace it. So, when he had a sudden inspiration to let Jarvis scan the stadium model and build a model to get a new element, he sincerely admired his father's greatness. Obviously, this element was imagined by Howard Stark and left to him in this way. Howard Stark is definitely one of the greatest inventors in this world. Although technology limits his creativity, it cannot limit his imagination. He left a valuable legacy to Tony and the world. Tony has started to build a particle accelerator in his laboratory. I believe that it won't be long before a new element will be born. Tony will use it to replace the palladium energy core and become an Iron Man who uses a new type of green energy. Unfortunately, he will not paint his battlesuit green. Then congratulations in advance. Zodiac clapped his hands. The agreement he signed with Tony was to help him solve palladium poisoning and get rid of his dependence on the chest reactor. Now, half of it has been completed. If he completes the second half, he can become a billionaire shareholder of Stark Industries. Just thinking about it makes me happy. Tony sighed. If it weren't for your ... Oracle, I might never have thought that my father would leave me such a precious legacy. Your father is a great inventor, but his greatest invention should be you. The model has been there for 40 years, and only you discovered the secret and made it. Zodiac's compliment was sincere. Howard Stark's things were kept by Lou Dan for so long, and there was no guarantee that there would not be someone who would check his relics. People who have seen Howard's short film and Lou Dan, who kept the relics, only knew that Howard left a puzzle that only Tony could solve. But they didn't even understand what the puzzle was until Tony, inspired by Zodiac, studied the model and finally discovered what the real key to the future was. The emergence of this new element can really change the world. With it, there will be no energy crisis, and even rockets and space shuttles will no longer need to carry a huge fuel tank to increase the burden of launch, and the pace of human beings going into space will be faster. Unfortunately, according to Tony's subsequent trajectory, he did not make this technology public. In a way, this is a loss for the technological progress of mankind. But this world is not Zodiac's original Earth world after all. The technological level of this world is at least several decades higher than that of Earth. Tony's technology can't even be said to be the most advanced energy technology in the world. Don't forget that SHIELD still has alien technology. Moreover, Wakanda can pretend to be poor and pitiful in front of the whole world for hundreds of years, hiding the universe-level vibranium technology and mineral deposits in the invisible protective shield. Why must Tony make his invention public? After all, if the high-end technology is obtained by an ambitious person, the damage caused can be much faster and more powerful than the construction. The Earth is very fragile. Of course, Wakanda's biggest problem is not that it has not made public its mineral deposits and technology, but that it has not made good use of these gifts from space. I didn't expect it. Tony shook his head. I used to think he was cold and shrewd. He never said he loved me, or even liked me. But I didn't expect that he would pin all his future on me. There is no father who doesn't love his children. Zodiac stood up and patted Tony on the shoulder. Okay. Your poisoning crisis has been resolved. In this case, I will go back to China in a while and help you contact the miracle doctor who can remove the reactor in your chest. I will definitely help you with what I promised you. Thank you. Tony said the word awkwardly. Thank you? Zodiac smiled. I didn't expect that there would be a day when I would hear Tony Stark say thank you. I thought it was just a simple deal. Speaking of deals, Tony suddenly felt a pain in his heart. He spent billions of dollars to get the news, but it turned out that it was his own father who saved him. Zodiac was simply making money out of nothing. His conscience was very bad. Before Zodiac's planned return trip, good news came from the laboratory of the Holy Grail Company. Combining Dr. Connor's original experimental data with the ideas Gwen later proposed, after a lot of experiments and calculations, 3 mice in the laboratory finally recovered their broken limbs after being injected with lizard genes, and after 3 days and 3 nights of uninterrupted observation, no abnormalities occurred. This indicates that the runaway problem of lizard genes has been overcome. Congratulations, Gwen. Zodiac let Gwen go from her arms, smiled and stretched out her hands to Dr. Connors. Congratulations, Doctor, your wish can finally come true. Dr. Connors was so excited that tears came down, holding Zodiac's hand and not letting go, crying and sobbing. It's not easy. I've waited for 20 years, and finally waited for this day. Zodiac was also happy. He felt that he had done a great deed to turn a once runaway villain into a money-printing machine, and this time, they really created a miracle. Cross-species inheritance is no longer an exception, but has achieved replicability. This means that this technology can be used for human experiments, and the probability of success is infinitely close to 100%. If nothing unexpected happens, Dr. Connors will become the strongest contender for the Nobel Prize in Biology or Medicine next year. Unfortunately, the agreement signed by Dr. Connors and Zodiac clearly stated that this technology cannot be made public, and even no patent application will be made. The Holy Grail company will monopolize this field. One is to make money, and the other is the same consideration as Tony, to prevent this technology from falling into the hands of ambitious people. After all, the core of the patent system is to exchange protection for publicity. Ambitious people will not care about patent laws, as long as they get the technology. They may mass-produce biochemical warriors, or even like Dr. Lizard in the movie, directly shoot a poisonous fog into the sky and infect the whole of New York with the lizard virus. When Felicia told Harry the news of the phased success, Harry was also very happy and wanted to come over immediately, but unfortunately the company was too busy to leave. Harry, who couldn't leave well, had to tell Felicia to follow up on this project, especially Zodiac, the leader of the project. Felicia decisively stated that she would stick to him closely and never let up. The carnival in the laboratory did not last too long. The subsequent work was more tedious. After all, if you want to do experiments on humans, you can't be as careless as doing experiments on mice. And with the previous experience of Dr. Connors, all steps and actions of human experiments must be carefully calculated and demonstrated, and absolutely no mistakes are allowed. Everyone was busy with their own things. Zodiac was also playing with the hammer while waiting for Zheng Xian's return trip. Until that day, a stream of light fell from the sky. After the stream of light dissipated, a cumbersome secret mark was branded on the ground, and in the center of the mark, 4 weirdos dressed in medieval clothes, 3 men and 1 woman, walked out. To use the words of the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents in the movie, it's the bearded Vikings, Princess Xena, Jack Chan and Robin Hood. The last free chapter will be available tonight after 12 o'clock. Please support us. Thank you very much. P.S. Chapter 128 still didn't escape the fate of 404. I can't even recite poems. What else can I do? Thanks to the beast, there will be no more driving scenes. Please cherish them. Thank you for the 1000 reward. Thank you for the reward. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 129 Watch me play with a sword. First order request. Zodiac recognized the outfits of these 3 people at a glance. The only 3 men and 1 woman who could come to the earth through the Rainbow Bridge and dress up as if they forgot to take medicine when they went out because of the late stage of Chunabiu were Thor's 3 followers and his child bride, the 3 warriors of Asgard, the blonde dung-headed swordsman Vander, the bearded foodie Volstagg, and the least visible Hogan with a chrysanthemum tied behind his head. In addition, the unrequited love female warrior Sif, whose name is What's Wrong with My Wife, are Thor's most staunch supporters and followers. Even if Thor was exiled by Odin, even if Loki, who succeeded the God King, rejected them sternly, even if they broke the warrior's oath and even bore the name of betrayal, they resolutely embarked on the journey to find Thor. Although their strength is not good, Thor's personality charm is still worthy of recognition for having such a few loyal followers. At least it is much stronger than Loki, who is alone and relies on the mind gem and the scepter to control people's hearts to attract a few followers. Thor. The moment the 4 of them landed on the ground, they felt the power of Thor's hammer. They looked at the men in the distance with lightning and surprise. Only Thor could use Thor's hammer. However, what they saw was an earthling they had never met before, and Thor's hammer was in his hand. Seeing this scene, they were stunned. As Asgardians, they would rather believe that the earthling was possessed by Thor's soul than believe that an earthling could lift Thor's hammer, which no one except Thor could lift. The hammer was obviously not fake, and Zodiac had a shaved head, and he didn't look like a good person. In an instant, the 4 of them entered a fighting state. Mortal, who are you, and why are you holding Thor's hammer? Sif was the first to stand up. The person who picked up Thor's hammer would be her ideal husband, but her heart had long been filled with Thor, and she could not tolerate anyone else. even if that person was extremely beautiful. Lizaya looked at the hammer in his hand, tilted his head and smiled. If I say that it came to me on its own, would you believe it? Only a fool would believe your lies. The bearded Volstagg, I'm his brother, shouted in a muffled voice. Lizaya shrugged. See, no one believes the truth. You have already made a judgment in your heart and believe it, so why ask? But before that, don't you have to introduce yourself first? You came here on the Rainbow Bridge. You should be warriors of Asgard. Yes, we are the Asgardian warrior Sif and the 3 warriors of Asgard. We are here to find the owner of the hammer. Tell us where that person is, otherwise don't blame us for being rude. Lizaya shook his head. Whether I say it or not, as long as this hammer is in my hand, you will not be polite to me, so what are you waiting for? He stretched out his hand to the opposite side, and hooked himself with the 4 fingers together. Come on, come together, I'll give you a hammer. Bang! Thor's hammer fell behind him, and the strange phenomenon in the sky slowly disappeared. The dark clouds dispersed, and the lightning dissipated. How dare you look down on us? Volstagg had the hottest temper, and he couldn't stand this. He swung his 2-handed axe and charged. I'm going to split you in half. The 2 friends behind him, Falda and Hogun, naturally wouldn't lag behind, and they each picked up their weapons and charged. Sif was not in the same group as them, and she was afraid of affecting their coordination, so she followed at a distance and was responsible for the side support. Volstagg, who was charging in front, jumped up, crossed a distance of more than 10 meters, raised the 2-handed axe in his hand high, and chopped it straight towards Lizaya's head with a powerful and heavy move. When Volstagg jumped up, Lizaya, who was opposite, felt a mysterious power coming from the axe. It seems that these guys are not as simple as they are in the movie. After all, they are from the gods of Asgard. Each of them has hidden divine power. Although Volstagg's divine power is much worse than Odin's, Lizaya cannot ignore it completely. There is also a guy who looks very similar to you in the Nordic chapter, the giant Delru holding a big axe. I wonder if you are as tough as him. Let's try the entry-level skills of the Saint Seiya. Pegasus, Meteor Fist. Pegasus is of course not Pegasus. Lizaya is not Pegasus, so he naturally can't use the Pegasus Meteor Fist. He just likes to shout like that. The Supersonic Meteor Fist is a move that every Bronze Saint can use, but there is no hidden attribute of the Pegasus Meteor Fist that can infinitely increase the power. Countless meteor-like fist lights will drown Volstagg, who jumped into the air. Volstagg's body flying in the air cannot be avoided. He was immediately hit by hundreds of meteor punches, and his body was immediately hit and flew backwards at a faster speed than before. Seeing this, Falda and Hogun reached out to catch it, and cried out not good as soon as they touched it. The huge impact force sent them flying backwards, and the 3 of them turned into rolling gourds and were thrown dozens of meters away before they stopped. How can a mortal be so powerful? Falda covered his chest, which was a little sore from the collision, and was a little unbelievable. Volstagg still didn't know how he flew back. He was stunned. Hogun suddenly said, "Where is Sif?" The 3 looked forward at the same time, but saw Sif holding 2 long swords and running around Lizaya, shouting and laughing non-stop, and the blades flew up and down, which was very beautiful, but it was useless. Lizaya, who was attacked by Sif, stood steadily on his legs, and his 2 hands seemed to move slowly in front of him. But he easily blocked every attack of Sif. You are too slow. How can you attack the enemy at this speed? Faster, faster. Lizaya blocked and scolded loudly. The angle is not tricky enough. The force is too weak. Haven't you eaten enough? Is this the strength of the female warriors of Asgard? I can't even beat an ordinary earthling, and you still have the nerve to call me immortal? Although the saints do not use weapons to fight, there is an exception, that is Libra's Danu. As the arsenal of the Gold Saints, he carries 12 weapons on his back, and naturally knows how to use these weapons. When Lizaya first came into contact with the saint's cloth box, Tongnu's microcosm taught him the use of these weapons in addition to teaching him all things. And among these weapons, there happened to be a long sword. Compared with the swordsmanship taught by Tongnu, Sif's swordsmanship is too rough, so rough that Lizaya can handle it even with one hand. After playing for a while, Lizaya saw that Sif had no intention of making any progress, so he lost interest in continuing. In the shadow of the sword, he directly reached out and grabbed Sif's wrist, and then with a flick of his hands, the long sword was in his hand. "Let me show you what real swordplay is." Lizaya turned around and faced the three friends from the Asgard, who rushed over again, and swung out two long swords quickly. Swish! A silver-white light flashed by, and Lizaya stood tall with his hands behind his back. Behind him, there were three performance artists whose clothes below the belt were completely stripped off, leaving only their boxer shorts to cover their ugliness. This is called swordplay. The first chapter is now available. Please support it. With the sudden release, I naturally worked hard to prepare the first 3 chapters, and there is still work to be done later. I look forward to your support. Chapter 130, Reunion after a long separation. First order required. A gust of wind blew by, and the three brothers suddenly shuddered together. The wind today was a bit noisy. The three warriors of the Asgard were completely furious. Killing someone is not enough, but cutting someone's pants is a naked humiliation. They have never been humiliated like this since their debut. Lizaya didn't want to do this, but their armor was basically concentrated on the upper body, and the lower body was some pants that were convenient for movement. Compared with the breastplate that might not be pierced by a sword, cutting pants could more easily show Lizaya's superb skills. "I'll fight you, X3. The three of them shouted together, and their divine power increased sharply, and their strength was instantly improved. It seems that in addition to bald heads, bare legs can also increase attacks. Lizaya threw the long sword back to Sif, clapped his hands and said, "The goddess doesn't like weapons, so we saints always fight with fists. This is our respect for the goddess and our respect for the enemy. Since you feel that I just humiliated you, then use my sincerity and use this punch to solve you." Ding ding! A powerful flame-shaped light emanated from Lizaya's body, and the air seemed to faintly hear the sound of gongs and drums. Lushan Shenglong. The three brothers who were knocked away by the dragon finally realized that Lizaya's pretense just now was not directed at anyone, but at the people present, all of whom were rubbish. Seeing the three being knocked out without any suspense, even though she knew she was no match, Sif still charged with 2 swords. As a warrior, she must be brave even if she dies, so that future generations can pass on her stories. "Stop, will you laugh at me again if I write this again?" A familiar shout stopped Sif's death charge, and she turned around in surprise, and saw a strong man with loose blonde hair running towards her in a majestic pace in the distance. Just like every time she and the three warriors encountered difficulties on the battlefield, that thick figure would always arrive in time at the critical moment, using the Thor's hammer in his hand to knock down the powerful and desperate enemy and lead them to victory. Sif believed that this time would be no exception. The three friends lying on the ground also raised their heads. Although they looked miserable, they all had smiles on their faces. The invincible god of war had come, and Thor would surely lead them to victory. They were ready to cheer for Lizaya's fall, but Thor ran directly to Sif, ignoring Thor's hammer passing by his feet. "My friends, I finally see you." The excitement and joy on Thor's face were about to overflow. He hugged Sif, the only one standing, with such strength that he seemed to want to rub her into his body. Sif was almost suffocated by happiness. It was this warm feeling, which was so powerful that it was so satisfying. Thor still had a certain sense of Thor's hammer, so he knew that Lizaya had been stroking the hammer in this direction recently. Early this morning, he drove Jane's car in this direction. After all, Thor's hammer was once his most precious thing. Even if he couldn't play with it, watching it from a distance could be a comfort. After hugging Sif, Thor smiled and rushed to the three warriors lying on the ground. "I'm so happy. Really, I thought I would never see you again. I'm so happy that you can come. Thank you, thank you." The three warriors excitedly enjoyed Thor's hug, and Sif couldn't help but speak. "That Thor, should we get rid of the enemy first?" "Enemy?" Thor pulled himself out of the hug of the three warriors and looked back at Lizaya, who was holding his arms and looked like a hermit. "What do you think of him?" Although Lizaya has a very annoying personality, speaks very badly, and does things that are not liked by others. "Hey, if you say that again, I'll be angry." Lizaya snorted from a distance. "Haha." Thor smiled, "But he is not an enemy. How can someone who can pick up Thor's hammer be our enemy?" "Thor's hammer is not an ordinary weapon. Only those who are righteous and kind and recognized by Thor's hammer can pick it up. Of course, people like Hela who are stronger than the range recognized by Thor's hammer can not only pick it up, but also crush it. So when Thor found that Thor's hammer would not lift itself, but Zodiac could lift it easily, he had an idea in his mind that Thor's hammer had chosen a new owner and it no longer needed him. In addition, when Loki later told him that Odin had died and Asgard's final verdict on Thor was to exile him forever, his heart died. Maybe it would be nice to be immortal on Earth from now on, find a short, good-looking woman with a pair of A's but a lot of water to marry, and give birth to a bunch of lively little troublemakers, living a life facing the sea and the flowers blooming every day. The damn fragrance that hits your face must be excellent. Jane, who is in Aquarius, not a typo, should think so too. It will be like this in the future. Thinking of this, Thor said to them with some regret, "Brothers, I'm glad you came to see me, but you shouldn't have come." "Why?" Falnet disagreed. "Why can't we come? We are here to take you home." Thor's expression was a little lonely for a moment. "You know I can't go back. I was exiled because of myself. My father has died because of me. How can I have the face to go back and face my mother and the people of Asgard?" Sif said in confusion. "Thor, your father is still alive." Hearing this, Thor's face changed instantly. If Loki were to give Thor a monologue at this time, it would definitely be, "I was wrong. I was really wrong. I shouldn't have believed Loki's lies from the beginning." Every time Thor would wake up after being tricked by Loki for a long time, and recognize the nature of Loki's liar, but it wouldn't take long for him to become the stupid brother who believed in his brother without hesitation, repeatedly. So, compared with Loki, Sif and Jane had no chance of winning from the beginning. Thor's red cape and Loki's blue scepter had already exposed everything. Since ancient times, red and blue have been a perfect match, and Thor and Loki are the official match. After finding out that he was fooled by Loki again, Thor's hot temper was instantly uncontrollable. But just when he wanted to say something to express his anger, a colorful stream of light fell from the sky again. From the stream of light of the Rainbow Bridge, a big guy landed with a bang, and the powerful kinetic energy smashed a huge shockwave on the ground, and the smoke and dust rolled around. When the smoke and dust dissipated, a tall figure emerged from it. The moment Thor, Sif and the three friends saw him, their nerves suddenly tensed up. The Destroyer, a giant made of special metal all over his body, nearly 5 meters tall, with various spikes inlaid on his body, was difficult to deal with at first glance. The purpose of the Destroyer was created by Odin to guard the treasury. As the guardian of the treasury, his attack and defense power must be super strong, otherwise how can he deal with the invaders who sneak into the treasury? After all, being able to sneak into the treasury of the god's domain itself represents extraordinary strength. After the Destroyer landed, his sight was directly locked on the position of Thor and his companions. The mask that looked like the air intake of a BMW opened, and a golden light shone inside. Quick! Seeing this, Thor and his companions scattered in all directions without thinking. The high-temperature laser emitted from the head of the Destroyer could only be resisted by Thor's hammer, and Thor could no longer lift Thor's hammer. "Please give us your support. Your support is my motivation, friends. It's time to get on the road." Chapter 131, Battle Against the Destroyer. Compared to the crazy escape of Thor and his companions, Loki was eager to try. The Destroyer from the god's domain, isn't this the opponent he has been waiting for a long time? Why does he play with a hammer alone in this wilderness every day? Isn't it because he lacks a heavyweight opponent in the non-war period, so he has to use this method to temper himself? Now, God has mercy on him, and a powerful opponent has appeared. The will to fight began to burn in his body, and Loki's iron fist was thirsty. Brother, before Loki could make a move, Thor had already walked out with a heroic attitude. "No matter what I have done to you, no matter what I have done to make you treat me like this, I sincerely apologize to you here, but please don't hurt innocent people." The Destroyer himself has no consciousness, and his actions need to be controlled by someone, and the person who is controlling the Destroyer now is undoubtedly Loki. Friends who say that the Marvel world follows the laws of physics, what technology can allow Loki, who is far away in Asgard, to control the destroyer's actions in a timely and synchronous manner, Thor said with great emotion as he walked towards the destroyer. Taking their lives will do you no good. The destroyer on the opposite side opened his mask again and a golden light shone in it. Thor offered his neck to be killed. Kill me and put an end to it all. Faced with Loki's deception and betrayal, Thor finally chose to forgive him. Damn. Well, Thor had no choice. What could he do? The hammer was lying in the distance like a dead dog. Could he let him fight the destroyer with his mortal flesh and blood? It would be better to die heroically than to be anally bruised and injured. At least he could buy a chance to live for Sif and the three warriors. When the crisis came, Thor, who used to look down on everything, finally realized the truth. He chose to forgive his relatives and sacrifice his life for his friends. Now he is no longer the reckless man who ignored his father's orders and started a war privately. He is a Thor who can really shoulder Asgard. Of course, the premise is that he must have the hammer in his hand, otherwise everything will end. Loki seemed to be moved by Thor's sincerity. The light in the destroyer's helmet disappeared, the mask closed again, and he turned around and prepared to leave. Loki would certainly not let Thor go so easily. He just gave him a hope of life, and then when he relaxed and wanted to celebrate, he slapped him backhandedly. The damage caused by this was definitely multiple levels. In the movie, Thor was slapped to death by Loki in this way. After that, Thor's hammer recognized Thor's righteous act again and returned to his hands, giving him the power of Thor, allowing him to revive on the spot with full status, and his strength reached a new level. Now, Loki did the same thing, but his slap was not on Thor, but was blocked by a slightly thin bald head. You're a bit too much to hurt someone in front of me, and hurt my friends. Zodiac propped up her thin arms, grabbed the destroyer's wrist, and caught him steadily. At the same time, a force bounced Thor to the position of Sif and others in the distance. No, don't. After Thor landed, he wanted to run over here, but was held tightly by everyone. In the Asgard god realm, Loki, who was trapped in the throne, sat up instantly. It's you again. It's you who ruined my good deeds, you hateful earthling. You thought that you could make me look at you with a new eye by getting me drunk with a bottle of wine. Dream on. Kill you. Loki slapped the armrest of the throne heavily, and the destroyer instantly grabbed Zodiac's wrist with his backhand, and at the same time, the mask opened, and the golden light shone again. Odin had misjudged his youngest son from the beginning. How could Loki make friends? Zodiac also saw the power of the destroyer's high-heat laser just now. With the blessing of the divine power from Asgard, he might not be able to defend it without wearing the holy clothes. But he had to defend himself even if he couldn't defend himself. His hands were bound by the distance of the destroyer, and it was difficult to break free for a while. The black clothes instantly covered his whole body. As for the holy clothes, Zodiac had no intention of wearing them from the beginning. The giant looked miserable, with cracks all over his body. It even had a gap when it was turned into the shape of the holy clothes cup. How could Zodiac bear to wear the holy clothes that were so scarred again? Zodiac would not wear the holy clothes again unless it was absolutely necessary. This was his reward for the holy clothes protecting him for so long. If he tried his best, he might be able to prevent it. At this time, he could only hope for his own small universe. Burn. Small universe. The laser of the destroyer had already lit up, and at the same time, the small universe in Zodiac's hand, which was like a flame, also burst out. The laser collided with the flame, and the huge energy collided, instantly producing the power of a 10-ton TNT bomb explosion. Thor and others who were dozens of meters away were directly blown away by the energy of the explosion. Fortunately, Sif hugged Thor tightly in the air, helping him block part of the power of the explosion and acting as a human air cushion, which saved his life. The three warriors were thrown into the dirt and couldn't get up for a long time. Sif was even worse. She lay on the ground with lifeless eyes looking at the sky, with a smile on her face that she was satisfied with her life. Thor was directly knocked unconscious by the shock wave. At the center of the explosion, the destroyer and Zodiac, who were close at hand, suffered a much greater impact than the people who were dozens of meters away. Despite their strong defense, they were still knocked out by the huge shock of the explosion. They each retreated more than 10 meters, and their legs plowed deep grooves on the ground. People flew out, but the collision of lasers and flames did not stop. The two huge energy columns collided fiercely, and the continuous impact, explosion, annihilation and impact at the center were repeated like this, as if they would not stop until one person was exhausted. Compared with the destroyer who was covered in steel, Lazia's black clothes were still a little worse. The explosion just now had damaged most of his black clothes, and there were scars and ashes on the exposed skin. Black blood flowed slowly down along the black clothes. Looking at the two people who were in a stalemate, Loki snorted heavily. "You are just a mortal. What right do you have?" The spear Gungnir in his hand slammed heavily on the ground, and the momentum of the destroyer suddenly increased. The balance of the energy column was instantly broken, and the impact point began to slowly move towards Lazia. If nothing unexpected happened, Lazia's failure was only a matter of time. A silver-purple light flew out of Lazia's trouser pocket, and the giant king's cloth flew into the sky and began to expand, preparing to wear Lazia. Lazia gritted her teeth and stopped the action of the cloth. "I don't allow you to dress. I haven't reached my limit yet. This is still far away." The light of the cloth flickered in the air, as if it was worried about Lazia's situation, but because of Lazia's refusal, he couldn't go against his wishes, so he could only dodge there anxiously. The huge impact of the imbalance caused Lazia's black clothes to begin to disintegrate, and the clothes on his upper body were also torn to pieces, revealing the back pattern slowly emerging on his back. "Not enough, not enough. Burn, burn my little universe," as Lazia gnashed her teeth and shouted. The pattern on the back of the vermilion bird became clearly visible, and the golden red flames gushed out like a substance. In the air, it rang like a phoenix and threw itself into Lazia's flames. With the blessing of the vermilion bird, the unbalanced impact was finally slowly maintained, and once again a balance was achieved near Lazia. At this moment, another colorful stream of light fell from the sky, and a tall figure landed. No one has ever said that there is only one destroyer. In the comics, there may be only one destroyer who was endowed with divine power by Odin, Zeus and other gods, but in the world that Lazia experienced, this weakened destroyer seemed to have more than one. Loki in the god's domain smiled and said, "I'll see how you can stop me." Chapter 3, I haven't slept yet, I still have work to do, and I look forward to your support. Chapter 132 Don't cry, my friend. First Order. If there was only one destroyer fighting Lazia, the current situation might turn into a 1,000 Days War like the Saint Seiya War, but the newcomer became a spoiler, putting Lazia at an absolute disadvantage. How could Lazia stop two destroyers? Although he wanted to say arrogantly, "I will fight 10, but the fact is that he had a hard time fighting against one destroyer, let alone two. Fighting 10, maybe he could do it when he was sleepwalking at night. However, judging by the nature of the development of the matter, it is hard to say whether there are 10 or not, but it is certain that there will be more later." The rapidly shining light on the holy clothes looked like it was about to explode, but Lazia still did not allow him to wear it. Just when it was about to disobey Lazia's order and force it to coil up, Lazia separated one hand and stretched it out to the side. With a slight upward corner of his mouth, Lazia smiled. You? Have you forgotten something?" Loki's eyebrows jumped sharply, and he saw Thor's hammer, which was lying quietly on the side, suddenly flew into Lazia's hands. With Thor's hammer in hand, Lazia's aura changed dramatically in an instant. White arcs of electricity followed the hammer and entangled his body, then swam into the flame shockwave in his hand like an electric snake. With the addition of the electric snake, the balance was completely reversed, and the collision point pushed towards the destroyer at a speed visible to the naked eye. Seeing that the previous destroyer was about to suffer, the later destroyer stood in place and opened the helmet mask, and the fiery laser directly hit Lazia's face. Fortunately, Lazia was well prepared. After the newcomer landed, he knew that if the collision point was allowed to push in front of the destroyer at the current speed, the newcomer would have killed him to pieces long ago. Thor's hammer, it's up to you. Thor's hammer roared excitedly, and the lightning stored in it was quickly shot out. Compared with Thor's hammer, the light of the giant lord's cloth dimmed suddenly, and then the light dissipated directly, falling to the ground, like an abandoned young wife, staying there aggrieved, not daring to move forward, but unwilling to leave. After the lightning from Thor's hammer was fired, it did not hit the new destroyer, but the one that was confronting Leziah. Hit by the lightning, the destroyer was immediately knocked out, and the impact of the laser and flame was also stopped. Leziah flew back to hide before the laser of the newcomer hit him. He couldn't let himself get into a situation of fighting with two destroyers, because he would be the first one to be killed. The destroyer hit by Leziah was not seriously injured, but he was a terrifying existence that would not even have a scratch on his face even if Thor's hammer hit him directly. A small flash of lightning is nothing. The horror of two destroyers standing together is definitely greater than 1 + 1. Facing two at the same time, Leziah knew that he had to take the initiative to attack and exchange attack for space, otherwise he would just wait to be passively beaten. Lightning flashed on Thor's hammer, and the arc jumped into the flames on Leziah's body. Leziah stepped on the ground, and a large pit with a diameter of several meters was created. The edge of the pit extended to the surrounding area like a spider web. Leziah rushed to the two destroyers standing together at a speed of more than twice the speed of sound. With the blessing of Thor's hammer, he finally broke through Mach 2 and reached the extreme speed. The lasers of the two destroyers crossed and shot at Leziah, but they were all left behind by his speed. It seemed that in just a moment, Leziah rushed in front of them, and Thor's hammer turned into a meteor hammer, and smashed the helmets of the two destroyers with a clanging sound. When Leziah finished his work, the lights in the helmets of the two destroyers dimmed, as if they had been turned off. After landing, Leziah's face did not have a trace of joy. His little universe could feel that the dimness of the two destroyers was not a shutdown, but a brewing of the next more violent attack. Sure enough, before he could make another move, the upper bodies of the two destroyers suddenly spun like windmills, and their arms intertwined into an airtight attack net, completely trapping Leziah, who was standing between them. "You're kidding me." Leziah was furious, and stretched out his hand to hit the two destroyers with Thor's hammer, but suddenly found that Thor's hammer became extremely heavy, and fell into the mud with a whoosh, and at the same time, the lightning on Leziah's body disappeared. In the divine realm, Loki smiled. "You can control Thor's hammer, but it is just the power of thunder and lightning given to you by the Father God. I used Gungnir to take back the divine power, and Thor's hammer is no longer under your control. I wonder how you can fight against my two destroyers." Just as Loki expected, Leziah was caught off guard by the two destroyers after suddenly losing the blessing of Thor's hammer, like a piece of pork belly in a meat grinder, being severely ravaged and torn by two fast-spinning meat grinders, and even almost shattered. By the time he was carried aside by the centrifugal force and flew out, his body was like a rag doll, with no visible part. With weak breaths, blood began to flow to the soil beneath him, and soon dyed the surrounding land red. What goes around, Leziah added to the abomination in Harlem, and it was repaid on him exactly as it had been. Seeing that Leziah was breathing in but not out, the two destroyers separated. One walked towards Thor and the other towards Leziah. After killing the two of them, no one could stop Loki anymore, and he would then launch a plan to wipe out the frost giants, with the ultimate goal of annihilating the entire race. Cough. In the pool of blood, Leziah first moved his fingers, then slowly supported his upper body with his arms, then simply raised his head and greedily took a breath of fresh air. What Thor's hammer ... what thunder and lightning power ... a gift from Odin. It turns out that the things created by others are just irrelevant external forces, and the Saint Seiya can only rely on his own small universe in holy clothes. The destroyer was standing behind him, with his mask removed, but Leziah was unmoved. He turned his head and looked at the slowly flashing giant armor not far away. "Old friend, are you crying for me? Seeing me like this, you must be very sad, just like how I felt when I saw you covered in scars. And the feeling I had when I wanted to protect you was just like you want to protect me now. Maybe I was wrong from the beginning. From the day I got you, we are no longer a simple relationship between people and armor. We are a whole. Only when we are together, even if we are broken together, we will not be unworthy of the title of Saint Seiya." The dim holy clothes began to flash rapidly, as if responding to Leziah's words. "Old friend, thank you for not abandoning me." Then, Lazia supported his legs and stood up. "Are you still willing to fight with this broken body of mine?" Thor's eyes moved in the distance. Even in his coma, he seemed to know what was happening in the outside world. The destroyer's laser beam lit up, and the laser representing destruction was about to penetrate Lazia's body. At this moment, the silver-purple light rushed to Lazia like lightning, and instantly turned into a holy garment to cover his whole body. A majestic momentum rose from Lazia's body. The momentum was so strong that it even knocked the destroyer, who was firing the laser, away. The laser brushed Lazia's shoulder and flew into the sky, but did not hurt him at all. Lazia, who was covered with scars and wearing a set of tattered holy garments full of cracks, had an extremely strange burst of unprecedented powerful power. Even Loki, who was far away in the realm of God, felt it. He stood up in a flash, muttering in disbelief, "What kind of power is this? How can a mortal have such a powerful power? This is impossible." At the end of the Rainbow Bridge, Heimdall's eyes were fixed on the void. "Sure enough, the powerful divine power has appeared on the earth again. Sure enough, your appearance is not a coincidence. So what is your purpose?" Unfortunately, Odin was already asleep. Heimdall didn't know who to report this news to, and no one would give him an answer. The huge and dazzling silver-purple light slowly emerged with a hint of gold. At the deepest part of the light, Lazia slowly clenched his fist. "This kind of powerful feeling, I seem to have experienced it before." But when the two destroyers who found something wrong had given up on Thor and moved to Lazia at the same time, in their helmets, lasers that were more powerful than before began to condense. They all sacrificed their cores at the same time, preparing to burst out a more powerful and deadly killing blow. Lazia raised his fist. "Before, a little lion taught me a move, but unfortunately I was too stupid to learn it. In this state, maybe I can imitate it. Let's give it a try." A golden light shot out from Lazia's fist. There seemed to be white lightning around the golden light. Although the existence of lightning made the golden light a little scattered, its power was very concentrated. It was just a simple light, but it instantly cut through the void and hit the two destroyers in front of him who seemed to be fixed. No, the destroyers were not fixed, but the golden light was too fast, so fast that they almost had no time to do anything. The golden light was very fast and disappeared in a flash, and the heads and half of the bodies of the two destroyers made of divine metal in front of Lazia disappeared at the same time. "Double kill," Lazia grinned, and his body fell backwards to the ground with a plop. At the same time, the giant lord's holy clothes on his body also lost their luster with a bang accompanied by dense cracks. The Rainbow Bridge fell from the sky again. There was indeed a third destroyer. Thor's hammer, lying on the ground, suddenly began to tremble when the third destroyer landed. "I was so excited that I couldn't sleep. I'll write another chapter. Please support me. Thank you everyone." Chapter 133, Juju. First Order. Lazia didn't know how long he had slept. It felt like a century, but it seemed like just one night. When he finally found a ray of light in the darkness and slowly opened his eyes, he found himself lying in a pure white room. The pain and discomfort in his body made him feel as if his body was no longer his own, and the small universe in his body was so weak that it was negligible. Not to mention the state before he fell into a coma. He was thankful that he could maintain a weak sixth sense. There were tubes inserted in his nose and mouth, and the feeling of being penetrated in one step to his stomach made him very uncomfortable. The discomfort of his throat from not using it for a long time made him unable to speak for a while. He wanted to reach out to pull out the tube, but found that his arm was in a heavy plaster cast. Not to mention bending it, he couldn't even lift it up. "Zia, you're awake." Lazia's voice startled a patient lying next to him. The patient raised his head and looked at Lazia excitedly. "Wait a minute, I'll go call the doctor." Seeing Parker running out of the ward quickly, Lazia frowned helplessly. "Isn't there a call button at the head of the bed? Just press it directly. Why don't you pull out the tube for me first?" "Hey!" Soon a blonde figure rushed in. Before she walked in, Lazia saw tears all over her face. Seeing Lazia open her eyes and smile at her, Gwen burst into tears instantly, fell to the bedside and hugged Lazia's body and cried loudly. Lazia wanted to reach out and touch her slightly curly blonde hair, but still couldn't do it. "Don't cry, sister. Pull out the tube for me first. Amid Gwen's crying, Parker walked in with a doctor with a long hair. To his surprise, although the doctor was wearing a hat and a mask, Lizzie looked familiar, but he didn't remember where he had seen him. Gwen calmed down and stepped aside to make way for the doctor. The doctor approached, took out a small flashlight and began to do a routine check on Lizzie. After looking at him for a while, he nodded and turned to Gwen and Parker and said, "Well, it seems that the patient has awakened, but he still needs to stay in the hospital for a while for further recovery treatment." Lizzie looked at the curly hair exposed from the edge of the doctor's hat and continuously sent brain waves to the back of his head. "Pull out the tube for me. Pull out the tube for me. Pull out the tube for me." Unfortunately, the curly-haired doctor did not receive Lizzie's brainwave information. After explaining a few words to Gwen and Parker, a shout came from outside. Stephen, a young and beautiful doctor, poked her head in and winked at the curly-haired doctor. "I'll be right there." The curly-haired doctor nodded politely to the few people, then strode out. Gwen came to Lizzie's bed and looked at him with concern. "How are you? You've been sleeping for more than half a month. Are you hungry? I made you some soup. I learned it from Grandma Joan. I promise it's not some weird dish." Parker interrupted from behind. "During the days you were in a coma, Gwen stayed here with you every night and went back to make you some soup in the morning. She hoped that you could have a sip of hot soup when you woke up. You refused to give me a sip even if it was cold." Lizzie turned his eyes to Gwen, with no tenderness or apology in his eyes. Gwen smiled and comforted him. "It's okay. I'm most happy that you can wake up." Lizzie sighed in his heart. "Thank God, Hexie. If Chapter 128 still existed, I would owe you so much, Gwen." According to the curly-haired doctor just now, Lizzie would have to stay in the hospital for at least another half a month before he could be discharged. But Lizzie didn't want to stay that long. He knew his body well. As long as he woke up, with the help of the natural energy and the Holy Grail, his recovery speed would definitely be much faster than hanging water in the hospital. In the afternoon, despite everyone's opposition, Lizzie insisted on leaving the hospital and returned to his residence. Half a day was enough for him to figure out what happened after he defeated the two destroyers that day. The noise they made that day was too loud and attracted the attention of all parties. But the first one to arrive was Iron Man Tony Stark. Tony returned to New York with the newly developed Iron Man Mark 6, which used new elements as energy. He wanted to show off to Lizzie, but Jarvis suddenly intercepted a satellite signal saying that there was a battle hundreds of kilometers away from New York, and the fighting party looked very similar to St. Lizzie. Tony immediately put on his battlesuit and set off. When he arrived at the scene, he just saw Thor holding Thor's hammer and killing a destroyer in a magnificent manner, while Lizzie was lying on the side like a dead dog, and the holy clothes on his body were dull. Tony, who didn't understand the situation, almost got into a fight with Thor. Fortunately, the misunderstanding was cleared up in time. After knowing that Tony was Lizzie's friend, Thor entrusted Lizzie to him, and took Sif and the three friends through the Rainbow Bridge to rush back to Asgard to fight Loki. As for the bodies of the destroyer, Thor took two away, and the remaining one near Lizzie was too badly damaged, so he ignored it. After that, Tony sent Lizzie to the hospital, and took away the most important component of the destroyer's body, the core made of Ru, a metal specialty of the god's domain. Ru is the main material for making Thor's hammer. What are the main functions of Thor's hammer? Hard, heavy, recognize the master, store, release energy, and can automatically navigate to fly to the owner. What do you think of when you see these functions? Hard, heavy, recognize the master, can store solar energy, and can automatically navigate to fly to the owner. Are these functions of the gold armor very similar to Thor's hammer? The main materials of the armor are mountain copper, gamma magnon and star sand. Orichalcum forms the main body of the cloth. Cinnabar gives it life and the ability to repair and upgrade itself in a small area, while Gamanion gives it the ability to strengthen its quality and store energy. From the Netizens' analysis post-material and relationship of cloth, so although it has not been proven, Ru is very likely one of the three materials used to make the cloth. Gamanion, even if it is not, it is at least something with very similar properties. With Ru, Tony's anti-cloth armor is no longer a fantasy. Materials that can replace orichalcum are available on Earth, in Wakanda, and on the black market. Lazai was admitted to the hospital, and Tony sent his cloth back to his residence in the Holy Grail Company building. As soon as Lazai returned to his residence and entered the door, he saw the cloth components scattered all over the floor. Just as Tony said, he tried to put the cloth back together, but failed. Closing the door and refusing Gwen's company, Lazai looked at the bleak cloth components on the ground, and a feeling of sadness instantly filled his heart. There is no doubt that the giant Duke cloth is dead. When Lazai forcibly raised the level of his microcosm and swung the lightning speed punch at the destroyer, the giant Duke cloth suffered the reverse destructive force from the seventh sense microcosm. The forced leap of microcosm has side effects on the body. Lazai is not protected by the goddess's power like the 5 little strong men, so the giant Duke cloth can only absorb the powerful reverse destructive force caused by these side effects at the cost of sacrificing itself. The final result is that the giant Duke suffered most of the destructive force and died, while Lazai was in a coma on the bed for more than half a month because of overdrawing his body. Carefully picking up the saint clothes on the ground piece by piece, Lazai sat on the ground with trembling hands that were a little weak, and meticulously assembled the saint clothes slowly. Because of the weakness of his arms and the fear of damaging the saint clothes, this piece of work took a whole afternoon, and it was not until the sky was full of stars that the last piece was assembled. Touching the holy chalice that looked like a broken unearthed artifact, Lazai gritted her teeth tightly, her lips trembling for a long time before she finally squeezed out a few words from her throat. "I'm sorry." "Hey." A heavy sigh came from behind Lazai. "I slept for more than 3 hours and got up to write again. I might be crazy. Please support me, everyone." Chapter 134 Teaching and Preaching, First Order. The voice behind him appeared very suddenly, but Lazai did not panic, nor did he look back blankly, because that person exuded a powerful microcosm, and that microcosm was peaceful, so Lazai could not have any hostility, but felt warm instead. So he just lowered his head, and used his head with some stubble to press against the holy cloth cup, muttering, "It's all my fault. I'm sorry, it's all my fault." Footsteps sounded, and the man stepped forward, leaned over and stretched out his hand to gently press on Lazai's shoulder, and said slowly in a soft voice, "He won't blame you." Sacrifice and dedication is not only the fate of the Saint Seiya, but also the fate of the holy cloth. The giant died a worthy death, and you should be happy for him. But, it was because I was not strong enough and tried to be strong that I killed him. Lazai lowered his head and blamed himself deeply. "Can't we stand out if we are not strong enough?" the man asked. "When did the saints only fight against enemies who are weaker than themselves? Aren't our enemies always stronger than us? If we don't stand out if we are not strong enough, then there is no need to fight the holy war from the beginning. Is that so?" Lazai slowly raised her head and saw that the man had long golden hair, eyebrows like 2 broad beans, eyes as calm as autumn water, and the corners of his mouth slightly raised. This man seemed to have a magical power. When she saw his peaceful smile, Lazai didn't know why, but her heart suddenly calmed down. "Are you, Senior Shin?" Shin in LC and ND is blonde, only in the SS animation is he green hair, so here it is said that Shin was originally blonde, and only turned green hair after becoming a Hades saint. Shin nodded, stood up and stretched out his hand to Lazai. "It takes more courage to live than to die, doesn't it?" Lu, the ancient said that if a clay pot is not separated from the well, it will break, and the general will inevitably die in battle. In every holy war, countless saints have sacrificed, not to mention the saint candidates. It is not an exaggeration to describe it in any tragic way. However, the dead are gone, and the surviving saints still have to carry the faith and expectations of their dead comrades and continue to fight bravely and strongly. Just like Shin and Tongnu in the previous holy war, they are not only participants in the holy war, but also inheritors of the sanctuary. Seeing their elders, brothers, comrades and even juniors fall in front of them, if they don't make themselves strong, there may be no SS biography. Lazai subconsciously pulled the hand to stand up and looked at Shin closely. Although the two were about the same height, Lazai always felt very small for some reason. After experiencing the death of the giant Lord Cloth, Lazia's attitude towards the saints, especially the previous generation of gold saints, is completely different from before. People who have never been on the battlefield will never know the cruelty of the battlefield, and people who have never experienced loss will never know the pain of loss. Only when you understand these, you will cherish them more. With his hands clasped together, Lazia subconsciously wanted to bow to Xiang, but Xiang gently held him up. I am very pleased to see your change of mindset, but unfortunately I don't have much time to reminisce with you. Xiang looked at Lazia with a gentle and kind look, and a little timid, which made Lazia feel like it was the same look his father gave him every time he returned home from abroad during the spring festival in his previous life. That kind of suppressed joy and concern of a long-lost reunion. After a pause, Xiang said with a serious face, "The giant cloth is dead. You have two choices now. I can help you repair it, or I can teach you how to repair the cloth, but you should also know what price it takes to revive a dead cloth." Lazia nodded. In SS, Mu told Shire that in order to revive a dead cloth, the Saint Seiya needed to sacrifice his life. Although he just said this to scare Shire, it does require a lot of Saint Seiya's blood to revive the cloth. To repair 2 bronze armors, more than half of Shire's blood is needed. To repair a silver armor, more than 1/3 of blood is probably needed. If the human body loses more than 1/3 of blood in a short period of time, it will die. The blood of a Saint Seiya is rich in the power of the microcosm, which cannot be supplemented by ordinary blood transfusions. Therefore, if Lazia wants to repair the giant garment, she is likely to die. Shen waved his hand, and the ancient armor box behind him suddenly emitted a golden light. When the light disappeared, a sheep head pattern with a pair of large horns appeared on the white box. Or, you can choose to inherit my Ares gold armor. Lazia realized that Shen, who appeared this time, was different from Regulus before. He was wearing a white robe instead of the Ares gold armor. Can I inherit the Ares gold armor? Lazia was stunned. Gold armor, which Saint Seiya doesn't want it. In the SS Galaxy War, the 5 strong and 5 weak fought to the death, all for a gold armor. Well, this is a bit nonsense. The fight for the gold armor is just a cover. At least none of the 5 little warriors joined the battle just to get the gold armor. But the attraction of the gold armor to the saints is unquestionable. Now that Shen waved his hands to distribute the gold armor, how could Lazia not be overjoyed? Looking at the golden armor with greedy eyes, Lazia exhaled dejectedly. When he turned to Shen again, his face was no longer sad or happy. Plop. Lazia knelt on the ground with his legs and kowtowed deeply. "Master, please teach me how to repair the armor. I, your disciple Lazia, will be grateful." Shen's multiple-choice question is actually a single-choice question for Lazia. After being with the giant armor for so long and experiencing life and death together, knowing that the giant armor can still be saved, how could Lazia abandon him and choose a stronger gold armor than him? There is no strongest armor, only the strongest saint. I dare not say that I will be faithful to one person forever. At least, Lazia will not abandon his comrades on his own initiative. Looking at Lazia kneeling on the ground, Xiang was not surprised at all, as if all this had been expected by him. Reaching out and stroking Lazia's head, Xiang was filled with infinite emotion. After going through so many things, and you can still maintain an innocent heart, your teacher is very pleased. You are very good, very good. Lazia raised his head and shouted excitedly, "Thank you, Master, Master, please accept your disciple's worship." Finally, I don't have to worry about the holy clothes being dry and shabby anymore. I can take care of it myself in the future. Helping Lazia up, Xiang reached out to the holy clothes box behind him. The golden light on the holy clothes box quickly faded and turned into flowing light that flew into his hands, and finally turned into several golden tools, which were exactly the ones Mu used when repairing the holy clothes. After handing the tools to Lazia, Shen reached out again and grabbed a small pile of materials from the holy clothes box. "Here are the tools and materials. The rest of the work is up to you." Lazia looked at the holy clothes box in confusion. Could that thing be a magical pocket from the world of Da-Erman? How could it have so many things in it? After hearing Shen's words, Lazia was stunned. "Hey, Master, wait a minute. You haven't taught me yet. Shin's eyebrows suddenly emitted a circle of telekinetic waves, and Lazai was hit by the waves. His head was stunned for a moment, and at the same time, some knowledge and memories about the holy clothes began to emerge in his mind. There are a total of 79 constellations of knowledge about the holy clothes, which is also the total number of saints in the previous generation of the Holy War. Not only that, Shin also taught Lazai some things other than repairing the holy clothes. When Lazai opened his eyes, there was no trace of Shin in the room, and the holy clothes box on the ground still maintained its shabby and simple appearance, as if nothing had happened. Lazai stood up and bowed deeply to the holy clothes box, silently saying in his heart, "Thank you, Master. Thank you for the 10,000 reward from the helmsman. Now, I owe you one chapter. Thank you for the 1,000 reward from Comma, and thank you for the reward from Dot." Mixrift is right. I think too much. Laugh cry. The first order has not reached 700 yet. I am so kind. Chapter 135. Are you crazy? Lazai no longer wanted to explore the secret of the holy cloth box. It was meaningless. It seemed that there was no fixed way to open it. When fighting against the destroyer, when his microcosm was upgraded to the 7th sense in a short period of time, Lazai's lost memories were recovered. He finally knew how his head became bald that day, and remembered what happened in the environment space. However, after Shin left, Lazai realized that he might as well not recover those memories. Since this box can be opened by the microcosm, it can also be opened by dropping a few drops of blood, or even by doing nothing. Then why did Lazai lose so much blood for no reason that night? What a fool! Turning around, Lazai was ready to ignore the holy cloth box. Faced with such a golden finger that depends entirely on emotion to open or not, you can only choose to make yourself a Buddhist. Otherwise you will be angry to death. In the future, when do you open it? Why do you open it? And whether you want to open it or not, just do whatever you want. If you continue to compete with you, I will be your grandson. With the methods, tools and materials to repair the saint cloth, it is no longer a difficult task to repair the giant duke seat. Just bleed it. It's not like they haven't let it go. Although the blood lost by the Saint Seiya cannot be quickly replenished with blood transfusions from ordinary people, the Saint Seiya will not die like ordinary people who lose 1/3 of their blood, because they have a small universe. Moreover, as long as the Saint Cloth Cup is repaired, it doesn't matter how much blood is lost. If 1 cup of water can't make it up, just have another cup. Looking at the tattered giant Duke Saint Cloth on the ground, Lazai raised his wrist, put his hand knife together, and slashed at his wrist. "Old friend, I've kept you waiting for a long time. I'll..." Bang! The door behind him was knocked away by the huge force, flew out close to Lazai's body, and hit the opposite wall and broke into pieces. At the same time, the glass window on the side was smashed with a bang, and scattered into debris on the ground. Lazai was stunned. Terrorist attack? Stop. 2 figures jumped in from the door and the window at the same time. One of them hugged one of Lazai's arms and pulled him into a shape. "Zion, you're crazy," Gwen shouted in pain. "That's right. No matter what happened, you can't let it go," Parker on the other side echoed. The two of them fixed Lazai's arms with force to prevent him from going on the path of self-harm. Lazai puffed up his cheeks, not knowing what expression he should use to face his friends and girlfriend who cared so much about him. "Guys, I'm working. Please don't make such a fuss." 5 minutes later, Lazai, Gwen and Parker sat cross-legged in a circle around the giant king's cloth. "So, this cloth is alive?" Parker stretched out his finger and gently touched the dull-colored cloth. Lazai nodded. "The only way to revive him is to use my blood." Gwen frowned. "Why do you have to use your own? We have both been strengthened, so our strength is not necessarily much worse than yours." "Haha." Lazai smiled without saying anything. "Gwen, you are really cute, just like that silly author, who gave you the confidence to make you think that your strength is similar to mine." Gwen actually took care of Lazai's face. With Lazai's current weak state, if he really fought with Gwen, let alone let him pierce through and sprint, even if he lay there motionless, Gwen could easily kill him. On the 48 uses of the word squeeze, learn about the 48 moves of Edo. By the way, where is Max? Lazai didn't want to discuss this issue any further, These two people really cared about him. They didn't care whether the holy clothes could be saved. They only cared whether Lazai was committing suicide. Max is still monitoring in Hammer Industries, Parker replied. The Hammer Industries factory is located in Queens, very close to Lazai's company building and the Stark Industries Expo Hall. On the day Ivan Vanko was arrested, Lazai told Parker and Max to pay attention to the movements of Hammer Industries. Because he had already made an appointment with Engzion to return to China together, he didn't know whether he would encounter the rebellion of the Iron Soldiers of Hammer Industries, so he needed to make arrangements in advance. In Iron Man 2 Inches, although Iron Man and War Machine, two good friends, took advantage of Ivan Vanko's carelessness at the last moment and shocked him to death through the explosion of the hand cannon, but Lazai couldn't guarantee that in this changed world, Ivan Vanko would still open his helmet like a fool and fight two steel cans with long-range attack capabilities. As long as he is not careless, it will definitely not be an easy task for the two Iron Friends to deal with him. Even if we put aside the three of them, the damage caused by the Iron Soldiers cannot be as insignificant as shown in the movie. For example, at the beginning of the riot, the Iron Soldiers chased and shot at Iron Man, who flew out of the ceiling. All the glass on the ceiling was broken and scattered, and there were hundreds of thousands of spectators below. Just imagine what would happen if the glass scattered from the ceiling dozens of meters high hit the crowd. Of course, the movie cannot stand scrutiny, and the scene of blood flowing all over the ground is not suitable for display in the picture. After all, Iron Man is not Deadpool. After that, a dozen Air Force Iron Soldiers chased Iron Man in the downtown area, with various machine guns and artillery shells. Would no passerby be injured by mistake? The truth is, if things really developed according to this plot, the number of casualties in New York City that night would definitely not be less than 1,000. Therefore, Max suspended his activities to combat urban crime and went to Hammer Industries with peace of mind. With his ability to move freely along the electric current, the probability of being discovered is infinitely close to zero. Is there any situation at Hammer Industries? Lazai continued to ask. Seeing that the two were talking about business, Gwen didn't bother with the previous problem anymore. Parker replied, Max said that Ivan Vanko's progress is very fast. During the time you were unconscious, he had basically completed the transformation plan for the Iron Soldiers and has now entered the production and modification stage. It seems that the time is very close. How is Hyde's follow-up? Lazai asked again. Hyde has hacked into Vanko's program. You are right. He really left a backdoor in the control program. But Hyde is afraid of being discovered, so he has not taken any action for the time being. Hyde is Parker's hacker friend. He has helped them many times before and his skills are very reliable. This time, Lazai still asked him for help. Ivan Vanko's biggest reliance on creating chaos is that he left a backdoor in the control program of all the Iron Soldiers and War Machines. When Justin Hammer went on stage to demonstrate, he directly used the backdoor program to gain control of all the Iron Soldiers and controlled them to start besieging Iron Man. This time, Lazai decided to cut off his firewood and directly cut off his remote control to see how he would do things then. Very good. You guys continue to follow up. This time, the mission of defending New York will be handed over to us, the Huangdao Defenders. And me, what can I do? Gwen raised her hand to speak. Lazai thought for a moment, turned to look at Parker. Peter, do you have anything else to say? Parker shook his head blankly. Well, Lazai pointed to the broken window. It's getting late. You should go back. Gwen was a little annoyed. Hey, I'm asking questions. I'm also a superhero. I can do something. Lazai pointed at herself. Are you sure you want to do it while Peter is watching? Thank you, Passionate Konjac Head, for the 1000 reward. P.S. You said that the low first order is related to the hasty listing. Don't say it's not. Give me some face. Thank you. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 136, Two Egg Swords. Gwen did nothing in the end. Lazai had been lying in the hospital for more than half a month. Her body was extremely weak. No matter how hungry and thirsty she was, she knew that she couldn't drain the pond to catch fish. However, Lazia's idea of repairing Juju immediately could not be realized. According to Gwen, at least the body had to recover before bleeding. I can't bear to squeeze you, and you bleed yourself? There was no other way. Lazia had to practice natural energy in bed all night, and Gwen slept on the side as a supervisor. Time passed day by day. On the 7th night of Gwen's supervision, at 12 o'clock in the middle of the night, the silent Buddha finally practiced Zen happily. Gwen woke up from her sleep and fell asleep trembling, who sang beautiful songs in the dream all night. Your tears are crystal clear, and your heart must have me. Why don't you hold my hand and watch the sea and sky become one? The tide rises and falls, the tide rises and falls, and sends away many tadpoles in the world. The next day, Gwen got up in high spirits. The worries and emptiness accumulated during the more than half a month of accompanying him and the many days of supervision were all swept away. After Gwen left, Lazia stood in front of the Juju holy cloth again. After waiting for so long, this moment finally came. Before cutting his wrists, Lazia carefully checked outside the door and window. After making sure that no one was squatting on the sentry, he began to bleed with confidence. As the blood continued to flow, the holy cloth cup absorbed the blood eagerly like a sponge. As the blood continued to flow in, the dull holy cloth cup slowly became shiny, but the process of brightening was not as fast as expected. It was not until Lazia had shed nearly half of his blood that the holy cloth cup returned to its previous level. I don't know if it was Lazia's illusion. He felt that the light of the holy cloth cup seemed to be brighter. At this point, the giant Lord Cloth was resurrected, but Lazia's work was not completed. The cloth cup was only resurrected, but the cracks on his body still existed. Just like a patient whose heart has stopped beating, although a pacemaker can restore his heartbeat, the scars on his body still need rehabilitation treatment to repair. The method of repairing the cloth that Cheyenne taught Lazia is the rehabilitation therapy of the cloth. Of course, the method of repairing the cloth is not just a simple repair, but also an opportunity to modify and upgrade the cloth. Just like in SS, every time the cloth of the 5 little strongmen is repaired, it will change its appearance, and its defense will increase. This is probably what it means to break and then rebuild. To be honest, although I have been with the giant Lord Cloth for so long and have established a deep relationship with it, if Lazia is asked to use one word to describe the giant Lord Cloth, Lazia can only say, ugly. Although the coverage is okay, the design of the 2 shoulder armors is terrible. Moreover, a good base can't be made into a shield, but it must be split into 2 pieces and attached to the arm like the taikai fish. It doesn't look like a shield, and it doesn't have any coordinated moves when it's called a weapon. Who has ever seen an ice mage holding 2 egg swords? So Lazia simply redesigned it for him. The shoulder armor was not changed much, but the lines were changed to be ordinary as much as possible. As long as it is not too alternative, it is considered a success. The 2 taikai fish separated from the base were directly combined together. From Tongnu to Shillong, the Lushan school has shields. Although Lazia has just worshipped Shin as his master, his back has already been stamped with the seal of the Lushan school, which cannot be taken off. When Lazia was repairing the holy cloth, a fierce quarrel was taking place in the research and development room of Hammer Industries. Hammer spent a lot of effort and promised many benefits. Only with the help of the senator, he got Ivan Vanko out from the surveillance of the FBI, CIA and SHIELD. But Vank, he had nothing to do every day but drink and play with birds. When the time agreed by the 2 came, when Hammer called to inquire about the progress, Vank said indifferently that my improved iron soldiers could not be deployed, could not fight, and could not shoot. The only thing they could do was salute. You are a jerk. The moment he heard this answer, Hammer wanted to break off Vank's bird head. There is no doubt that he was fooled by Vank. As a proud scientist, when Vank saw Hammer for the first time, he had no respect or gratitude for this idiot who felt good about himself but had no scheming, no culture, and even no self-knowledge. So, from the beginning, he simply used Hammer's platform to make his own things. The iron suit for revenge against Iron Man, Whiplash. Hammer, who had only a superficial understanding of high-tech, not only did not find any abnormalities, but also spared no effort to support Vank, and felt that everything was under control. A guy who mainly deals in traditional light weapons and whose only weapon has something to do with high technology is a missile that turns mute when soaked in water. He is learning from others to make high-tech comprehensive threat response combat armor. He was sold and counted the money happily, but now Hammer has finally had enough. He will no longer tolerate Vank's indifferent attitude and contemptuous eyes. He wants to let Vank know that he, Hammer, is also a person with temper. The reason why he is so confident is that the U.S. military has obtained an iron suit from Stark Industries. As the largest arms partner of the military, Hammer Industries has undertaken the modification of the iron suit and subsequent maintenance work. From a certain perspective, Hammer Industries has obtained all the technologies of Iron Man except the micro-reactor, and Hammer believes that the micro-reactor technology is just a matter of time for him. James Rhodes cannot fight against the huge state machine. After his contribution to bringing back the iron suit is forgotten, the military may even take away the right to use the iron suit. Yes, Tony did not give up on himself because of the poisoning, but Rhodes still took away one of his Iron Man suits. However, unlike the movie where Rhodes almost snatched the Iron Man suit away, this time Tony took the initiative to give it to him. Mark II, the first generation of Iron Man suit test machine, was the one Tony wore while having fun in Los Angeles, but was carried up by Lazia to the sky and almost fell to death. Not to mention that Tony had completely despised its performance and technology as a test machine. Mark II was even a pain in his heart for a long time. Every time Tony saw it, he would think of that bad experience of free falling in the air, and facing it for a long time would cause him psychological trauma. So after his childhood friend and best friend showed his yearning for the Iron Man suit, Tony went with the flow and gave him Mark II. At the Stark Industrial Expo, the Iron Soldier display of Hammer Industries was about to be staged. At this time, an Oriental man walked into the building of the Holy Grail Company. As for the issue of Americans using idioms, which some friends are disgusted with, I would like to say that in dubbed films, foreigners use idioms, colloquialisms and allegorical sayings in a very weird way. Chapter 137, Planning. It took Lazai a long time to repair the holy clothes. His body was already very weak due to bloodletting, and repairing the holy clothes was a strenuous job. If it weren't for the fact that the Juju holy clothes had restored some of the functions of the magic water after resurrection, he might not have been able to hold on. After hammering away for a whole morning, Lazia finally completed the modification of the Juju. The new holy clothes were worn on his body. The general shape was not much different from the previous one, but the shoulder armor and helmet had a new design, and the shield on the left arm gave people a great sense of security. Without being narcissistic for too long, Lazai hurriedly put away the holy clothes and came to the reception room. Zheng Xian had been waiting for him for several hours. Zheng Xian's visit was not an official meeting on behalf of the country, but a private visit. Since accompanying Lu Jia to interview Tony and Lazai, the two have often communicated. Zheng Xian is less than 40 years old this year, with the rank of Major General. According to him, among his colleagues, he is not the fastest promoted. This is a promotion speed that is difficult to imagine in peacetime. Of course, this world is not the Earth where Lazai originally lived, and the people and history of the Celestial Empire in this world are very different from those of the previous Earth. In a world where aliens often appear, superheroes and supercriminals emerging endlessly, it is not particularly difficult for officers to make meritorious contributions and be promoted. This is normal. If the two worlds were exactly the same, the Iron Patriot, who was a Trojan horse in Iron Man 3 inches, would have kidnapped Al Guanhai instead of a white president. But even so, Lazia still has a blood-related intimacy with the Chinese people on the other side of the ocean who speak and write Chinese characters, claim to be descendants of Yan and Huang, have black hair and black pupils. He may not give a shit about Fury, but he has a good impression of Zheng Xian. When Zheng Xian saw Lazai, he was obviously stunned. He knew that Lazai was in the hospital, but he didn't expect that he was still so weak more than a week after being discharged from the hospital. After Felicia brought coffee and snacks with enchanting steps, Zheng Xian looked at her leaving back and sighed. It's great to be young. Lazia sipped the water blessed by the Holy Grail in the cup, looked up at Zheng Xian in confusion. Brother Xian, did you misunderstand something? That person just now was just my temporary secretary. Zheng Xian picked up the coffee cup and gave Lazia a look that said, I know everything. I will be resigning and returning to my country the day after tomorrow. Is your time convenient? And with your physical condition, do you need me to find some old military doctors to help you adjust? Lazia put down the cup. Brother Xian, you are talking about old Chinese doctors, right? Don't old military doctors only treat difficult and complicated diseases? No, I don't need old Chinese doctors. It's really not what you think. Hey, I can't explain it to you clearly. Lazia really had no way to explain to Zheng Xian why he looked exhausted from overindulgence. After being discharged from the hospital for so long, could he just say that I just had a bloodletting? But as the saying goes, 1 drop of semen equals 10 drops of blood. Lazia lost so much blood, if it were converted into essence, I'm afraid 2 kidney-sized balls wouldn't be enough to hold it. It doesn't seem to be calculated that way. Haha. Zheng Xian smiled without saying anything. Saying nothing, Lazia already knew the approximate date of Zheng Xian's return to China, so she didn't feel it was sudden. In addition, Max had sent back the news earlier that the Hammer Industries exhibition would be tonight. It seems that the Steel Soldiers' rebellion will take place and end tonight, and it will not affect the return trip. It's stable. I'm sorry to trouble you, Brother Xian. About returning to China, I haven't been back since I was a child. I'm sorry to trouble you this time. No problem, I'll help you with the formalities soon. The embassy's car will pick you up, and we'll take a special plane back together. Zheng Xian said with a smile. Take a special plane? Lazia suddenly remembered a joke from ancient times. Will we take a tractor that pulls bricks back? Then I have to rent a mink coat to resist the wind. Zheng Xian was stunned, then laughed. Do you watch Uncle Zhao's skits too? Lazia shrugged. I also like Stephen Chow's movies. Not only do I watch them myself, I also drag my friend to watch them. He almost vomited after watching them. The conversation quickly turned into a discussion about the big names in the domestic comedy industry. In this regard, the two seemed to have a lot in common. Moreover, as a native of China, Zheng Xian had a very good impression of Lazia, an American Chinese who was familiar with Chinese culture and popular elements, and was very enthusiastic about Chinese people and yearning for China. The two chatted for a whole afternoon. Felicia came in with a grudge and refilled the coffee countless times. She had a deep grudge against Zheng Xian, who was not tactful. It was not until the sky gradually darkened that Zheng Xian said goodbye and left. For him, tonight would be a sleepless night. Lazia's social relationships and personality and hobbies would be compiled into a written report and written into a special file. After Zheng Xian returns to China, he will completely resign from his job as a military attaché. His new work unit has been confirmed in advance. It will be a secret department that handles special and emergency events. Zheng Xian will be the direct person in charge of this department. After seeing Zheng Xian off, Lazia declined Felicia's invitation to have dinner together and went out to meet Parker at the Stark Industrial Expo. The reason for rejecting Felicia was mainly because after experiencing a life-and-death experience, Gwen's actions touched Lazia. Although he believed that he was not a particularly loyal man, he would not do anything to let Gwen down at this time. It has nothing to do with being physically weak. Absolutely. The Iron Soldier show of Hammer Industries is about to be staged. On the stage, Hammer danced the old-fashioned dance of the last century like a lunatic, and he was silly and self-entertaining on the stage. The audience yawned until rows of Iron Soldiers were sent to the stage by elevators. Suddenly, the whole venue was set off. A few days ago, Iron Man was almost beaten to a pulp by Ivan Vanko, which once reduced the public's trust in Iron Man. Coupled with the deliberate guidance of the anti-Steel faction headed by the Senator, Iron Man's credibility has dropped to the lowest. Hammer chose this time to launch a full range of Iron Soldiers for land, sea and air, and the first one was a war machine that looked almost the same as Iron Man. There are batches of remote-controlled Iron Soldiers, which may become batches of war machines. So many steel cans appear together, giving people an infinite sense of security. Just as Hammer said, as long as these Iron Soldiers protect the country, The homeland defense of the United States and its allies will be impregnable, and under the leadership of the war machine, the scene of all the Iron Soldiers saluting together instantly pushed the atmosphere of the entire venue to a climax. "Peter, how is Hyde preparing?" Looking at the Iron Man flying from a distance with flames, Lazai whispered to Parker beside him. The two were sitting in the audience. If Hyde had a problem, the glass above his head would fall down and they would be finished. Unexpectedly, Parker frowned. "From just now, I suddenly couldn't contact Hyde. I don't know what happened to him." "What?" Lazai was a little confused. "He couldn't be arrested." "Where does he live?" "Go and check." Before he finished speaking, he heard Parker whispered, I haven't seen him. I don't know where he lives." Lazai felt like she was going to explode on the spot. "I have planned and arranged for so long, and I am about to win the battle from afar, but I actually failed." "Where can I put the bragging in the previous chapters?" Iron Man has landed, and Ivan Vanko in the distance may have controlled the Iron Soldiers to aim at Tony. "Never mind, let Max take care of that Vank first, and we'll talk about the future later." Lazai felt a little tired. "Couldn't I just pretend to be cool for a while?" Parker shook his head. "Max followed the current to find Hyde. He's not at Vank." "Damn it. I'll be a little busy during the Chinese New Year, but I'll definitely update, 2 chapters a day, even if I don't sleep, but it may be a little late. Please forgive me." Chapter 138, Dirty and Dusty. A good game was planned and won thousands of miles away, but it was messed up by a group of stupid teammates. Lazai looked bitter, watching Iron Man land on the stage in a standard heroic posture, and then walked up to War Machine and hugged his neck to accept the media's photo. A friendly scene of good friends sharing a quilt. In 10 seconds at most, the machine guns of the Iron Soldiers and War Machine's big black Gatling gun will aim at Iron Man and shoot wildly, while hundreds of audiences in the audience are still clapping and cheering for the appearance of Iron Man without knowing anything. Despite the crisis of trust, Tony Stark's national favorability is still maintained at a high level as a rich, handsome, talented philanthropist and superhero. "What should I do?" "I'll go up and attract attention first." Parker took out the hood, grabbed the clothes with both hands and prepared to perform a one-button costume change. Lazai held his hand. "It's too late." On the stage, Tony was questioning Hammer where Ivan Vanko was. Hammer was still pretending to be stupid, preparing to get away with it. Who knew the War Machine behind them suddenly took out the big thick barrel and pointed it at Iron Man's mask. "No, no, no, it's not me, it's not me, my system is locked." "Tony, hurry up, the whole system has been destroyed, I can't control it, I can't remember it." James Rhodes's frantic voice came from the speakers, and behind him, dozens of Iron Soldiers raised their guns in unison. The scene suddenly fell into panic. Everyone knew that once the Iron Soldiers opened fire, the audience below would suffer an unprovoked disaster. Lure them out. Tony's idea was correct. Only by using himself as bait to lead all the enemies away could the audience be prevented from being accidentally injured. The thrusters on his palms and soles of his feet suddenly spurted fire, and Iron Man was ready to take off. Whoosh pop. Just as Tony was about to fly, several sticky white liquids suddenly flew from the audience and stuck to his thrusters. Well, to be exact, it was a white thread-like object that looked like the one that was sprayed continuously. The thread-like object that stuck to the thrusters was quickly melted by the flames, but it delayed Iron Man's launch. The white thread-like object did not stop, but continued to attack, forming a large net in the air, accurately covering Iron Man, and then rapidly increasing, and soon his legs were shaking like a cocoon, and his flying action was completely interrupted. The audience who were more careful looked back, and after seeing the thread-like objects, their nervous hearts quickly calmed down. Spider-Man, the danger is not over yet. Everyone quickly leave the venue. If you need to take a photo, please wait 300 meters outside the venue. Thank you for your cooperation. Spider-Man jumped out from the dark of the audience, and his hands continuously sprayed spider silk at Iron Man like a convulsion. Although no one knew why Spider-Man suddenly attacked Iron Man, the appearance of Spider-Man, a good neighbor in New York, instantly made the chaotic order harmonious, and everyone began to evacuate in an orderly manner. In the audience, In the surging crowd, two people were unmoved. Pepper asked Ms. Rushman, the legal advisor beside her, in confusion, "That's Spider-Man. Why did he attack Tony?" Black Widow shook her chest. "I don't know, but we'd better withdraw first, so as not to cause trouble for them." Tony never thought that he would be trapped by Spider-Man one day. The sudden situation made him a little panic. Although he had many ways to break the spider silk and web on his body and successfully take off, Ivan Vanko would not give him this opportunity. Ivan Vanko, who saw the scene of Iron Man being trapped through the window of the Iron Soldier, showed his beautiful big gold teeth. "It seems that the superhero is not on your side, Stark. Today is your death day." Ivan Vanko laughed wildly and pressed the launch button heavily. Dozens of guns fired at the same time, and the barrage of bullets hit Iron Man. His iron armor might be able to hold out for a while under this powerful barrage of bullets, but the audience behind him who had just started to evacuate could not avoid the accidental injuries of stray bullets. "What's going on, Spider-Man?" Tony had no choice but to raise his arms in front of him to block the barrage of bullets as much as possible. As for the audience behind him, he could only block as many as he could. Ping-pong. The light wall was like glass, shining brightly and looked very beautiful and fragile, but the dense bullets could not cause any damage to him. Tony also discovered this situation. The bullets in front of him were hitting him happily, but he did not feel any impact on his body. This phenomenon was very unscientific. Not only that, the bullets that hit the golden light wall, how did they come, and how did they bounce back by a new onlu? The war machines and steel soldiers were hitting happily, but they ended up making bullet holes all over themselves. Ivan Vanko was so shocked that his big gold teeth were about to fly out. What is this? Could it be that Stark has developed an energy shield that can bounce back attacks? This is unscientific. In the corner of the audience, Lazia saw that the audience had completely evacuated, so he retracted his hands and then wiped the cold sweat from his head. Fortunately, it was Shin who appeared before. Fortunately, in addition to repairing the holy clothes, Shin also has a rare defensive skill among the Saint Seiya skills, the crystal wall. Fortunately, Shin poured the crystal wall and other things into Lazia's mind. Although it was just a weakened crystal wall, when the barrage of bullets from the Iron Soldiers hit it, it was still bounced back without any suspense, and did not cause any damage to the crystal wall. In the audience, after using the crystal wall skill, Lazia collapsed directly on the seat, not wanting to move at all. The crystal wall, like the Black Rock Molten Blast, is a very elastic move that can be used by the Sixth Sense and the Seventh Sense. The one that Lazia used naturally could not stop the 100 Dragon King or the Hades Warrior, but it could still stop some bullets. "Mr. Stark, I have no ill intentions." Parker landed on the side of the stage, pointed at the ceiling above his head, and explained to Tony, "If you are allowed to fly out, the glass on the ceiling will be broken by them, and if you fall down, someone might get hurt, so we have to resort to this last resort." "I hope you don't mind," Tony complained while tearing the spider webs off his body. "You guys, your light screen can block the bullets. Can't you use it to catch the broken glass? Do you have to make me look so miserable?" Tony knew Lazia's identity and the relationship between Lazia and Parker, so when Parker said "we," he naturally guessed that the guy who made the crystal wall was Lazia. Only that guy could make these mysterious things that are like magic. Parker paused. "Well, although I don't want to do this, I still want to convey a message to that person." Parker cleared his throat and imitated Lazia's tone of voice. "Ha ha ha, this is very interesting, Mr. Shitbig." Although Tony was wearing a mask, Parker could guess with his ass that Tony's face was very interesting at this time. There will be 2 chapters today, and the chapter Ode to the Helmsman will be delayed for a few days. Chapter 139 The Situation Out of Control. Tony couldn't help but want to slap himself. Since he had guessed that the light wall was made by Lazia, he still had to ask unnecessary questions. Isn't this just making things difficult for himself? He just didn't expect that this boy who was known as a good neighbor in New York would also be led astray. What kind of magic does Lazia have? Why do all the people who are related to him change their style? Unfortunately, there was not enough time for Tony to complain on the scene. Ivan Vanko saw that the concentrated fire did not do anything to Iron Man. Although the light wall that suddenly appeared blocked the barrage attack, he still had a stronger attack. Heat-seeking missiles. The explosive power of the missile is definitely not something that the thin light wall can block. Absolutely, Vanko shouted fiercely and pressed the launch button. Dozens of Iron Soldier's launchers opened and hundreds of missiles were fired. Iron Man had already gotten rid of the spider silk on his body. Without Parker's obstruction, he flew up directly with a spray of thrusters. The missile drew a curve in the air and rushed over along the figure of Iron Man. Jarvis, launch the heat-seeking missile. Tony flew towards the ceiling while giving Jarvis an order. Boom. The missile behind him was too fast and collided with the heat-seeking missile that had just been launched, causing a violent explosion. The huge shockwave almost made Iron Man lose his balance in the air. Fortunately, Jarvis controlled the flaps of the Iron Man suit in time to help him stabilize, allowing him to fly out of the hole in the middle of the ceiling quickly and elegantly. Tony rushed out of the stadium and saw a stream of light flying over. The speed of the stream of light was very fast and it was heading straight for the stadium. Another one? Tony's window directly locked the position of the stream of light. There were dozens of Iron Soldiers behind him who might catch up at any time. He had to knock down the obstacles in front of him first. Wait a minute, sir. Jarvis enlarged the picture in the window. It doesn't seem to be an Iron Soldier. In the picture, a person wearing a blue and black color scheme similar to Spider-Man was flashing with lightning, holding a person in his arms and flying towards this side quickly. It's not an enemy. It seems to be Electro. Whoosh. The two passed by each other, and Tony saw through Jarvis' night vision system that the person in Electro's arms was a teenage girl. In the stadium, Lazia drank water and looked at the dozens of Iron Soldiers on the stage. In the previous round, their heavy firepower should have been almost exhausted. With the level of Hammer Industries, it was already the limit to equip each Iron Soldier with enough small missiles to fire around. However, they should also be equipped with a large number of machine gun bullets. If they fly out with Iron Man, they will still cause certain damage to the city. On the stage, the Iron Soldiers positioned as Air Force have already taken off with flames, and the War Machine has taken the lead and has already flown out of the ceiling of the stadium. Although Parker tried very hard to stop the Iron Soldiers, he was alone and weak after all. In the end, he only stopped two, and the others had already taken off smoothly. A stream of light came in from the ceiling. After seeing it, Parker shouted happily, "Electro, help quickly!" Boom. Max fell directly on the ground with his back, and after rebounding, he fell a long way. Electro didn't help, but became the one who needed help. After drinking the water, Lazia knew that she couldn't delay any longer, so she stretched out her hand to the ceiling. A golden crystal wall appeared on the ceiling, and all the Space Steel Soldiers that hit it fell heavily. Every Steel Soldier has a self-destruct program, and Lazia can't let them fly out of the venue. Parker temporarily left the Steel Soldiers behind and jumped to Max to check his injuries. Max coughed and struggled to sit up. "I'm fine, but the battery is a little low." After saying this, Max spread his hands and let go of the little girl in his arms. "When I got there, she was almost captured by a group of men in black. The weapons of the men in black were strange, and I managed to escape with her." Parker looked at the little girl in Max's arms who looked only 13 or 14 years old. "You won't tell me that she is Hyde?" Max shrugged. "I didn't expect it either." Lazia, who was next to him, came over. He had heard the conversation between the two and knew what the situation was. Although it was a bit surprising that Hyde was a 13 or 14-year-old girl, geniuses in this world are the least valuable. A 13 or 14-year-old genius hacker is not as rare as a 13 or 14-year-old Saint Seiya. Of course, now is not the time to dwell on her age and genius. "Max, go charge first." "Parker, try to hold back these Steel Soldiers. I'll take care of the girl." Lazia quickly made arrangements, then helped the little girl up from Max's hands and poured the water from the holy cup directly into her mouth. The little girl groaned and woke up after drinking a glass of water. "Uncle, where is this?" "Uncle." Lazia almost choked herself to death with a mouthful of Lao Chenjing. "How can I be an uncle? If it weren't for the fact that you seem to have Chinese ancestry, I would spray you to death with a mouthful of salt soda." "Ha ha, Lazia chuckled and directly pulled the little girl to the backstage. At this time, the backstage control staff were busy like ants on a hot pot. Hammer was going crazy. Didn't you say the technology was mature? Why is this happening? The technicians were also going crazy. We don't know what's going on. Our system has been rewritten, and the drone steel soldiers have been completely controlled by him. We can't do anything about it. Then solve it quickly. If you can't solve it, find someone to support you, Hammer yelled. The technicians were typing on the keyboard in a hurry, and the person next to him said helplessly, "The telephone line has been cut off, and there is no signal on the mobile phone. Boss, we may be powerless." At this time, Lazia took the little girl hide into the backstage, and on the other side, Black Widow also came in with Pepper. What happened? Pepper questioned Hammer as soon as she came in. Hammer tried to cover it up and asked the security personnel to drive Pepper and Black Widow out, but Black Widow didn't give him any face at all, and directly wrapped his arms and pressed him on the table. "Tell me who is playing tricks." "No need to ask." Lazia put the little girl in front of the computer desk, and a big man in a suit lay on the ground behind him. "Help me deal with that guy, just like we said before, you know." The little girl raised her chin confidently. "Don't worry." "What do you mean?" Black Widow didn't quite understand Lazia's operation. Unexpectedly, Lazia suddenly approached, directly stretched out her hand to pick up Black Widow, and took a step of more than 10 meters to a large sofa next to her. "Sister, thank you for your help. I am typing in a hurry. Wishing everyone a happy new year." Chapter 140 Helmet Boy. Lazia was too close to Black Widow, completely beyond Black Widow's safe defense distance, and the position of his hands was a little tricky. Black Widow felt that she couldn't use any strength when he pressed her on the sofa. What do you want to do?" Black Widow was a little flustered by the hot air from Lazia's mouth and nose. Lazia wanted to say "I want to," but the current situation did not allow it. He could only shake his head regretfully. "Sister, leave the rest to me. You rest here for a while." Black Widow tried to resist, but her consciousness fell into darkness. Little Pepper was completely confused. "Lazia, what are you doing?" Lazia stretched out his hand and made an invitation. "Sister, come over here and sit back. I won't do anything to you, but please pretend that nothing happened in the next period of time." After saying that, before Little Pepper could say anything, Lazia's figure had disappeared. The bizarre experience tonight made Little Pepper temporarily lose her judgment. She walked to the sofa next to Black Widow and lay down in a daze, turning her head to look at Black Widow, and then looking down at herself. Little Pepper silently sat up straight. If she took the same posture, her weakness would be too obvious. Inside the venue, Parker was already busy like crazy. He couldn't stop dozens of iron soldiers by himself. "Electro, are you done? I can't stand it any longer." "Wait a minute." Next to the stage, Max was poking himself with 2 wires. The arcs on the wires flashed, and he shouted with his teeth bared. After shouting, Max looked down at the wires in his hand in surprise. "No, why can't I charge it?" When Lazia used instant teleportation to return to the stage, several iron soldiers had already rushed to the door, and the Air Force soldiers had already flown out of the ceiling, chasing the direction where Iron Man and War Machine flew away in flames. Seeing Lazia coming back, Max shouted for help. "I can't charge it." Lazia really wanted to slap him to death, but he also knew that now was not the time to scold his teammates. When he went to save Hyde just now, he didn't know whether the person he met was an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. or a Hydra agent. In short, he encountered something not very wonderful. "If you can't charge, get out of the way first." Lazia didn't have time to study Max's condition. If he delayed any longer, the iron soldiers would rush out of the hall. Ivan Vanko never expected the iron soldiers to be able to stop Iron Man. As long as they could rush into the crowd and create chaos, they would be considered successful. "Spider-Man, you jump." Lazia clenched his fist and jumped into the air, shouting to Parker at the same time. "I jump." Parker heard the shout. Without any hesitation, he jumped into the air, and at the same time shot a spider silk at the ceiling. Ice Spear White Lotus. In midair, countless ice fangs flew out of Lazia's hands, nailing all the Iron Soldiers in the venue to the ground. The few who had already run out of the door and set up machine guns to shoot were no exception. They were all shot through by ice spears, and a thick layer of ice crystals stained their bodies. After getting rid of all the Iron Soldiers with one shot, Zodiac didn't stop at all, and flew into the sky directly on the air blast. In midair, black clothes quietly covered his whole body, and he waved his wings and turned into black light and flew out. In midair, Parker sneezed inside. Zodiac's moves are getting more and more domineering. I'm afraid I'm no match for him anymore. Max, who rolled to the side, still held two wires tightly in his hands, and kept muttering, "Why can't I charge it?" In the dark night, Zodiac didn't waste much effort chasing Iron Man and the Iron Soldier. The target of the fire with a long tail was simply too big. Tony was circling with the war machine behind him, and in the distance, 7 or 8 Air Force Iron Soldiers also caught up from a distance. I don't know what he considered, but he didn't take the pursuers to climb higher, nor did he lead them to the sea or the wild places with few people, but kept hanging around the exhibition venue. Maybe it was to take care of the Army and Navy behind who didn't fly up, so that they could be rescued when they attacked the crowd. Just like in the movie, he saved the little boy wearing the Iron Man mask, and later the screenwriter even made the identity of this child into the little Spider-Man who returned to Marvel. It's really ridiculous. When filming Iron Man, the matter of little Spider-Man returning to Marvel had not been put on the agenda. If that were the case, there would be 2 Spider-Men in this world. Wouldn't that be even more ridiculous? Tony, find a way quickly, you'll be shot down if you keep going like this, Rhodes shouted frantically to Tony, who was flying in front, through the communication system. Tony had no other choice, otherwise he wouldn't have been chased like a dead dog. But there was one thing that made the two of them a little strange. Why didn't these Iron Soldiers open fire after chasing for so long? Weren't they having a great time just now? Watching the performance of the Iron Soldiers from a distance, Zodiac knew that Hyde had already taken the first step, and their weapon system had been locked. At this point, Zodiac didn't need to do anything else for the rest of the things. He could fall down and slow down before Ivan Vanko's whip appeared. Continuously using the crystal wall and the ice spear, White Lotus put a lot of pressure on his weak body. Looking down at the exhibition hall from the air, Zodiac suddenly found a familiar figure. Bang! Zodiac imitated Iron Man and knelt on one knee in front of that figure. The figure was a child of about 7 or 8 years old, wearing a big Iron Man helmet on his head. Seeing Zodiac, who was wearing a black coat and a black mask on his face and looked like a villain, land on the ground, he was not frightened, but raised his hand calmly. In the child's palm, the center of the glove that was exactly the same as Iron Man's lit up with a white light. Zodiac smiled and clenched his fist. Bang! Behind the child, Iron Man landed with a bang, but he did not launch a laser attack on Zodiac, but squatted directly and protected the child tightly. Zodiac's fist did not stop, and he punched out directly. Countless black streams of light flew out of his fist and covered half of the sky. It looked surprisingly similar to the dark meteor fist of Dark Pegasus. The black meteor fist passed Iron Man and covered all the Iron Soldiers flying behind him. Boom, boom. The Iron Soldiers were directly hit and exploded in the air, like fireworks. Brilliant and dazzling. The only war machine that was missed rolled to the ground, smashed the flower bed next to it, and its head was directly stuck in the organic fertilizer pile next to it. Happy New Year! Zodiac smiled and waved at Tony as the fireworks in the sky were shining. What? Tony, who had a fist mark on the front of his helmet, was a little confused. He didn't understand what Zodiac said in Chinese. I wish you all a happy Chinese New Year, a happy family, and make more money in the new year. Chapter 141, Saving the World. In the research and development room of Hammer Industries, Ivan Vanko watched rows of disconnected appear behind the list of information representing the Steel Soldiers on the computer. Until the last 10 Air Force Steel Soldiers were shot down, he didn't see clearly how they were defeated. The Steel Soldiers in the venue basically had their backs to Zodiac, so the shot of the ice gun shooting through them was not captured. As for the last Air Force, only a dark figure was vaguely seen emitting a bunch of dark things similar to energy waves, and then the picture went dark. Without Black Widow and Happy, who felt good about themselves, to clear the security of the research and development room. Vanko knew that he couldn't stay there to be the mastermind. Just now, the weapon systems of the Air Force Steel soldiers all failed, which made him realize that if he stayed any longer, his own steel suit whip would also be finished. The hacker who suddenly appeared broke through the firewall of him, a part-time hacker mechanic, as easily as drinking cold water. In the exhibition hall, Tony took off the deformed mask on his face, looked down at the fist mark on it, and shouted angrily, "You must have done it on purpose." Lazia shrugged. "It just missed." "As a Saint Seiya, how could you miss?" The mask was crushed and thrown aside. Tony obviously didn't believe Lazia's words. Whether he was willing to admit it or not, Tony was sure that he did it on purpose. "Hey, Tony." Rhodes' voice rang in Tony's ears. "Ready?" Tony lowered his head and looked around, and finally found the trace of War Machine in the organic fertilizer pile. Rhodes' voice was a little unnatural. "I think it's meaningless for you to entangle whether it was intentional or not. It's more important to pull me out first. After all, the smell here is really not very good." When Rhodes fell to the ground and smashed the flower bed, he also broke his helmet. The helmet with a poor seal was stuck in the organic fertilizer pile. The smell can be imagined. Tony let go of the helmeted child in his arms, went up to pull Rhodes out, and took off his helmet. "Huffin'." Rhodes breathed in the night air greedily. "Oh, do you know, this experience is just like going through hell. My God." Lazia silently pulled away, looking at Rhodes' face that was not much different from the donkey shit in the organic fertilizer pile, and asked in confusion, "Lieutenant Colonel Rhodes? You lost weight?" Obviously, this Lieutenant Colonel Rhodes looked a little different from the guy who accompanied Lobing to watch the stars and listen to stories in Los Angeles before. Rhodes made a rare joke. "I'm still me, just a different firework." In the movie world, Rhodes' personality and character changed after changing actors, which is quite regrettable. Under the correction of the world's laws, it seems that only Lazia knows about Rhodes's face change. This feeling is so magical. What the hell is going on? After catching his breath, Rhodes began to care about business. Why was my suit suddenly controlled by someone? Who is that guy, and what does he want to do? Tony sighed. "Remember Ivan Vanko, the man who attacked you at the event? Didn't he die in prison? Could it be?" It was Hammer. The two began to discuss the ins and outs of the matter, while Lazia lowered his head and looked at the helmeted boy who was still in a defensive posture. The little boy was obviously the little Parker who went to the opening ceremony of the expo with Parker. Lazia covered his face so that he was not recognized, so he had the idea of teasing him. "Hey, man, can you take off this helmet? I was the one who defeated those machines and saved you. If you like masks, shouldn't you wear the same one as mine?" Parker replied in a muffled voice. "It was Iron Man who protected me with his body and blocked your fist with his face. That's why he saved me, not you." "Hey, boy, forget about the mask just now and pretend it never happened, okay?" Tony interrupted and continued to discuss the problem with Rhodes. Lazia wanted to continue teasing Parker, but a flame with a long tail flew over from a distance. "Are there new enemies coming?" Tony and Rhodes also noticed the flame and became alert at the same time. Bang! An Iron Man who was one size larger than Iron Man and War Machine landed on the ground, and then pulled out two long whips with arcs of electricity from his hands. Tony was impressed by the powerful long whip. "It feels so good to be back." Vank arrogantly opened his mask, raised his head and gave the two a king's contempt. Before he landed, Lexia pulled Parker and hid in the shadows. Tony's mask was broken, and Rhodes was still hanging with an unknown object. The vicissitudes of the two people were in sharp contrast with the arrogant Vank. "The situation is not good, a stronger one has come." Rhodes glanced at Tony and took a step forward. "It doesn't matter, I prepared a special gift for this guy. I will use ex-wife to beat him up." After saying that, the launcher on his chest opened the safety, revealing the true appearance of the ex-wife missile. Lexia wanted to cover her face. The compost just now was not dry. "With the character of ex-wife, I'm afraid it will still be a joke." Sure enough, the ex-wife flew out with a suffocating momentum and spurted flames. With a clang, she hit Vank's body, and after a small spark, She bounced to the ground and started to bloom like a firecracker. Then, there was nothing else. "Is it Hammer's masterpiece?" Tony asked with a hint of sarcasm. His contempt for Justin Hammer was so deep that it was beyond words. "Let me do it." Tony turned on the small missile launcher on his shoulder. A dozen micro-armor-piercing bullets flew out like a flying monkey, and then hit the outer shell of the whip, creating a burst of sparks and smoke. Iron Man and War Machine had already opened fire first. Although they did not cause any damage, Whip was naturally not polite. He swung the whip in his hand, flashing an arc of electricity, and whipped the two. The powerful melee ability of the Fighting Nation instantly put the two Iron Men who could only play with bullets into a bitter battle. In the shadows, Lazai squatted beside little Parker. "Do you think Iron Man can defeat the Iron Man with a whip?" "I feel that he is in danger." Little Parker nodded affirmatively. "Iron Man will definitely succeed, no matter how powerful the enemy is. The final victory will definitely belong to Iron Man." That firm tone made Lazai not know how to respond. Is this the power of faith? It was unknown what kind of experience a 7 or 8-year-old child had to go through to establish his faith, but Lazai suddenly felt that he could not bear to break this firm belief. "Do you want to help Iron Man? Do you want to save New York? Do you want to save the world?" Lazai asked with a smile. "Can I?" Little Parker asked with some expectation and some lack of confidence. "Remember how you were going to deal with me when I landed just now?" Under Lazai's guidance, Little Parker raised his hand, and the palm of the Iron Man glove on his hand lit up. Lazai gently held his little hand. "After aiming, shout fire. There will be a surprise." Little Parker nodded, and then shouted loudly, "Fire!" A white light with cold air gushed out from his palm, and in the distance, a whip and a whip rope that tied Iron Man and War Machine were hit directly by the white light to the reactor on his chest. The white light instantly broke the defense of the reactor and destroyed the structure inside, while the cold air froze it, avoiding a possible explosion. "You succeeded, superhero." Little Parker turned his head to look for the voice, but found that Lazai was no longer behind him. "Thank you for the lucky money from Yanji2304. Thank you for the 500 lucky money from Mildot. Thank you for your support." Chapter 142 Responsible for You. Under the guise of Parker, a sonic finger destroyed Vank's micro-reactor. Lazai left after completing his mission, hiding his achievements and fame. However, Lazai would not give face to Ivan Vank, who had antisocial tendencies and had caused casualties in the previous attack on Tony. In order to achieve his own goals, he did not care about the lives of others. The sonic finger with a small universe of cold air had penetrated Ivan Vank's body through the iron suit while destroying the reactor. As an ordinary person, Ivan Vank would lose his lower body's intuition and mobility in a short time under the erosion of the cold air, and his internal organs would be frostbitten, and his entire body's skills would decline rapidly. Even if Tony and Rhodes did not kill him directly, he would not have much time left. Flying back to the venue of the Hammer Industries exhibition, the scene was similar to when Lazai left. Parker carefully checked the body of each Iron Soldier and confirmed that the power source had been completely destroyed, eliminating the possibility of their self-destruction. Max was still holding two wires and muttering there. Backstage, Pepper was sitting elegantly on the sofa, Black Widow was leaning beside her, and there were many big men lying on the ground. If you didn't know, you would think she had just completed a 5-kill and was sitting on the sofa pretending to be serious. Next to her, a 13 or 14-year-old Asian girl was blowing bubble gum, looking fearless. Seeing Lazai coming back, Pepper's slightly frowned brows finally relaxed. "Lazai, can you explain it to me? I have too many questions this evening." Lazai smiled. "Sister Pepper, the matter has been handled. There were no casualties, and there was no major damage to the venue. It should not affect the reputation of Stark Industries. Don't worry about this." "That's not what I'm asking." "That." Pepper was hesitant to speak. "Mr. Stark is also very good. Those rotten sweet potatoes and stinky bird eggs can't hurt him. He will be back soon." "Don't worry," Lazai said and looked at the little girl next to him. "Hide?" The little girl nodded, holding the USB flash drive in her hand. "This is what you want." "It's a thank you gift for saving me from those black-clad outsiders." We are even. After handing the USB flash drive to Liza, the little girl turned and left the venue. Her previous residence had been exposed and she needed to find a new place to stay. Wait a minute. Liza followed her and came to the outside of the venue. The name Hyde isn't your real name? The little girl stopped and turned to look at Liza with her head tilted. Of course not. Hackers don't act under their real names, and a girl wouldn't take a name like Hyde. These are all obvious common sense issues. There is no need to have any doubts. Uncle, Liza gritted his teeth, if you call me uncle again, be careful that I will beat you up. Oh, I'm so scared. The little girl patted the small tablet that had no development at all, and her acting was exaggerated to death. Max said, you encountered something? After finding that her looks seemed to have lost their effect, Liza decided not to bother with a rebellious kid about addressing him. Max, the guy with electricity on him? In comparison, he looks more like a bad guy. Okay, if Parker hadn't said hello in advance, I would have thought he was a super criminal. It seems that although Max saved the little girl, she still had a bad impression of him. Sure enough, she was a rebellious, unlucky child who didn't like anyone. Thinking of this, Liza felt more balanced. No matter what trouble you encounter, we have the ability to protect you. Why don't you stay and join us? The little girl's face became more and more familiar, and Liza felt that she might have guessed her identity. Agents of SHIELD, Sky the Shockwave Girl, Daisy Johnson. But girls change a lot when they grow up, and Liza is not sure that her guess is necessarily correct. Moreover, Sky, who has not figured out her own life experience, does not know her real name, and it is even possible that the Sky vest has not appeared in her mind yet. So the current situation is that Liza can't even get any useful information from the little girl to confirm that she must be Sky. After listening to Liza's words, the little girl shook her head without any consideration. Compared to you, I still believe in myself more. If there is nothing else, I will leave first. Parker knows how to find me. After that, she went to the bushes next to her. An orphan of 13 or 14 years old. No one knows what she has experienced before, but fortunately she is independent and strong, and she can still live well even without Liza's help. Everyone should have the right to choose their own life path, as long as she does not take a wrong path that violates morality and law. Others should not interfere too much, and it seems that this child looks smart, and she should not be a master who is willing to suffer losses. Thinking of this, Liza took a step forward and grabbed the little girl back before she was about to go into the bushes. The little girl was less than 1.4 meters tall, and was held in Liza's hand, just like a little chicken. Although what you said makes sense, I still can't let you go. You are such a big child living alone, and a group of unidentified people are tracking you. It's fine if I don't know you, but since I know you and you have helped me so many times, will I just stand by and watch? The little girl struggled and shouted, let me go, you dead uncle. I don't need your kindness. Since you called me uncle, then I, as an uncle, must be responsible for you. Don't move. Regardless of whether this child is Sky or not, Liza decided to take her back first. Put her in the Star Child orphanage first and let Grandma Joan talk to her. The USB flash drive in her hand contains all the information and data of the Iron Soldiers. Liza's goals have been achieved, and this night was quite satisfactory. The Iron Soldiers hit by the ice spear were severely damaged and had lost the meaning of recycling and research. Hammer will face imprisonment for helping Ivan Vanko escape from prison and taking the blame for creating the chaos tonight. Of course, Liza doesn't need to take care of these. Liza didn't want to know what their reaction would be after Black Widow woke up, because they were innocent anyway. After saying hello to Parker and Max, he quickly disappeared into the night carrying the little girl. The little girl who was shouting and moving was slapped on the buttocks, and she instantly calmed down. In the orphanage, Grandma Joan couldn't understand why Liza took back a child, but she didn't say anything, especially after knowing that the little girl was also an orphan. She felt pity in her heart. The little girl had to stay temporarily under Liza's tyranny. This plot is a bit bland, mainly because the protagonist's current strength, Ivan Vanko, the villain, is not strong enough. so the plot was changed. I hope everyone will be satisfied. The next few chapters will be the plot of returning to China. Friends who feel that they can skip the plot can stop subscribing for the time being. Please look forward to the start of the next big show. The modified version of Avengers 1 is about to be staged. Thank you Lee Xian from World of Warcraft for the 1000 New Year's money. Thank you to bookfriend14093019243250 Nuclear Power Rabbit for the New Year's money. Thank you for your support. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 143 Returning Home in Glory. As the saying goes, if you don't return to your hometown when you are rich, it's like walking in the night in brocade clothes. But when Lazai returned to his hometown when he was rich, everything had changed. Although he had been mentally prepared that the China in this world was not the China he once lived in, when he returned to the small mountain village where he was born, he didn't find anyone familiar, or even the village, and he couldn't help feeling a little empty. Accompanying Lazai was a baby-faced man who was a little shorter than Lazai. His name was unclear, but everyone called him Lao He. Lao He was found by Zheng Xian. He had a military demeanor and it was obvious that he had fought in the battlefield with a gun. Zheng Xian was busy after returning to China, so he asked Lao He to accompany Lazai. Lao He not only served as Lazai's bodyguard, but also worked as a driver and guide during his time in China. Well, it should also mean surveillance. We are all smart people and don't need to say it clearly. This was something Lazai couldn't refuse. After all, he was not an ordinary person, and he didn't want to cause trouble for everyone by accepting Lao He's help. Although this place is backward, the environment is very good, with beautiful mountains and rivers, and simple folk customs. Lao He is not a dull person. Along the way, he not only answered all of Lazai's questions, but also took the initiative to introduce him to the local customs and practices of various places. Lazai, who had no money and no time in his previous life, simply took out time to concentrate on visiting famous mountains and rivers, and took the opportunity to return to his hometown. Lazai was relieved when he didn't find the village and acquaintances. After all, if he really met his parents in his previous life, and they didn't know each other, he really didn't know what kind of mentality he should use to face them. It's good that they didn't appear in this crisis-ridden Marvel world. On the road again, Lazai's heart also relaxed, and he was no longer as depressed as before because of his homesickness. Yes, far away from the hustle and bustle of big cities, the pace of life is slow, and people are easier to satisfy. Unlike New York, people are robbed with guns or even shot everywhere to retaliate against society because of their dissatisfaction with society. Lazai agreed. Although he had done so many things in New York, to be honest, he didn't like the city of New York very much. Lao He laughed. He was a smart man and would not easily express his views. After that, the two began their journey of sightseeing. It was not until 3 months later that Lazai stopped at Wu Lao Peak in Lushan. Unfortunately, Lazai did not find the waterfall where teacher Tongnu guarded the demon star and Zilong practiced. The nearest waterfall near Wu Lao Peak is called Sandy Spring. The waterfall is divided into 3 sections and flows elegantly. However, Sandy Spring is beautiful, but it does not have the majestic momentum of the waterfall in the animation that falls 3,000 feet straight down, and it is not suitable for practice. The reason why he stopped at Lushan was because Zheng Xian called Lazai and the relevant departments had already made an assessment of the full set of remote-controlled steel soldier technology he provided. In addition, there was a big man who wanted to meet Lazai, and the meeting place was in Lushan. The big man was in his 50s, and there were not many traces of time on his face. He even looked as vigorous and energetic as a young man. Lazai did not expect that he would meet the Prime Minister of the Celestial Empire all of a sudden. It seemed that Zheng Xian had collected more information than he thought. Thank you for your contribution to the country. I thank you on behalf of the people. If all Chinese living abroad can be as concerned about the motherland as you are, Our celestial empire will prosper. Lazia's keen sixth sense can sense that the big shot's words are sincere and there is not much drama. Holding hands, Lazia smiled brightly. Although I am wearing a Western dress, my heart is still Chinese. You don't have to thank me, this is what I should do. After the polite words, Lazia sat down with the big shot in the clean room. Everyone else avoided them. Only a slim and elegant young woman in a cheongsam sat aside and made tea. Although the woman looked stunning, she was just an ordinary person. The big shot was naturally not a master with special skills. It can be said that if Lazia had a little bit of evil intentions, he could succeed in an instant, and the net set up outside would not work at all. The big shot holds an important position and shoulders the prosperity of the country. He can get along with Lazia so confidently. This sincerity touched him a little. So, after a few words of gossip, Lazia took the initiative to get to the point. With a wave of his hand, a ball of fire appeared in Lazia's palm. The big shot's eyes flashed with suspicion, and without any shaking of his body, he smiled and said, Zheng Xian's information is very accurate. Laziu is indeed not an ordinary person. The tea master next to him lowered his head, as if he was deaf and dumb. Everything around him had nothing to do with her. It seemed that in her eyes, there was only the tea and the teacup in her hand. This is called natural energy. Lazia did not keep the suspense and explained directly. After that, he put away the flame, stood up and began to take off his clothes. The tea master's hand trembled, and the tea almost spilled out. Lazia smiled lightly. I thought you were really deaf and dumb. Lazia turned around and showed the big shot her back with hard lines like a marble sculpture. But in a moment, a lifelike back pattern of the vermilion bird appeared on her smooth back. The big shot put down the teacup and asked in confusion, Are you the descendant of an ancient martial arts school? Lazia put on her clothes, sat down again, and reached out to take the tea handed over by the tea master. Her fingers touched it lightly, and the tea master trembled unnaturally. What I showed just now is called natural energy, and the back pattern condensed on my back is the manifestation of the cultivation of natural energy to a high level. People with back patterns will have superpowers like special functions. The big shot clapped his hands. It's really amazing. No wonder you can become friends with American superheroes and make such a big name. Zheng Xian really knows a lot, and it is very likely that he knows more than Furry. As a Chinese, Lazia is naturally the focus of more attention. That was all by chance. Lazia scratched his head modestly, and then said seriously, I can contribute this set of natural energy cultivation method, but I can't guarantee how many people are qualified to learn it. The big man was finally moved. You want to contribute the martial arts handed down from generation to generation. Will your elders agree? I also know some rules of the people in the martial arts world. Many things cannot be passed on to outsiders. Obviously, the big man has already made up a 1,000-year-old sect for Lazia, and such sects generally have many rules. Although he believes that the cultivation method of natural energy can bring benefits to the country, he does not want to cause a lot of trouble because of greed for a set of exercises. What the Celestial Empire needs now is harmony and stability. I know my limits. Lazia shook his head. The reason why I do this is that in the near future, the world will fall into fear. Thank you for the New Year's money from Zhang vs. Yan. Entering the domestic chapter. If you are not comfortable, please suspend subscription. Thank you. Chapter 144 Alarmist. What kind of fear are you talking about? The big man savored the word. It would probably take a doomsday-level disaster to make the whole world panic. Lazia nodded. You guessed right, it's the doomsday. Does Thanos' snap count as the doomsday? Obviously it does. The disappearance of half of the world's population is not just the end of half of humanity being wiped out. What kind of social unrest will be caused by this is something no one can predict. On a small scale, a fully loaded truck is driving at high speed in the city, and the driver suddenly disappears. How many vehicles will be destroyed and how many pedestrians will be injured when the truck loses control? On a large scale, if some high-ranking officials suddenly disappear, the government can only be paralyzed. What kind of threat will it pose to the country's regime? Moreover, countless familiar people around them disappear without warning. So what kind of blow will the survivors suffer physically and mentally? Will they collapse? Will they become antisocial? There is no doubt that the snap of the purple potato spirit's fingers, in his view, is just the wiping out of half of the living beings, which has contributed to the sustainable development of the universe. But for human society, it may be a catastrophe. No matter how it is played in Avengers 4, the chaos in society cannot be simply brushed aside. By the way, the remaining Avengers 3 are basically the first generation of Avengers. Does it mean that Avengers 4 will be their curtain call? After all, the pay is out of control. So, if Thanos snaps his fingers, it will be the end of the world. The big shot did not panic nor show disdain, but calmly picked up the teacup. What are the possibilities, you said? The girl next to him looked at Lazai with strange eyes. I don't know what she was thinking in her beautiful big eyes. It should not be a good thing. Lazai put down the teacup, looked into the eyes of the big shot, and said seriously, 100%. The danger comes from the universe. Do you believe that there are aliens in this world? The big shot glanced at the tea master. Her surname is Zhang, and her ancestors have seen aliens with their own eyes. Lazai was immediately in awe. This girl, who seemed to have no special features except for her beautiful appearance, explosive figure, calm personality and elegant temperament, turned out to be a person with an ID card. No wonder she was asked to accompany the big shot. The team master smiled calmly and did not introduce himself, so Lazai did not ask any further questions. If that's the case, then things are simple. Lazai took a sip of tea to moisten his throat, and said in a deep voice, the US government once captured an alien corpse. Based on the corpse, they did a lot of research, one of which is called the Tahiti Project. I wonder if our intelligence department has any news. The big shot was very satisfied with Lazai's use of the word we. He nodded. We have found out a little bit. Well, Lazai continued, the corpse they captured is called the Kree. They are an alien race with magical powers. To us Earthlings, they are supermen. And there are many aliens like them who have superpowers or powerful space battleships and huge armies. And the Earth, as an emerging civilization, has entered their sight. To them, the Earthlings are a group of primitive people with sticks and spears. They can easily invade and destroy or enslave us. The team master couldn't help but interrupt. So, these alien invasions are the doomsday you mentioned? Lazai shook his head. Not entirely. Alien invasion is bound to happen, but with S.H.I.E.L.D. and the superheroes they belong to, the invasion will be serious, but it should be solved. The big shot naturally knew the existence of S.H.I.E.L.D. Although S.H.I.E.L.D. is nominally an international security council belonging to the United Nations, it can actually be regarded as the United States. After all, the United Nations are all part of the United States. Although the big shot does not completely believe that S.H.I.E.L.D. has the ability to solve the alien invasion, he cannot completely deny it. If civilian casualties are not counted, they should have such ability. At the same time, he also knew that Lazai was valued by Fury, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., but he rejected his invitation. Otherwise, even if Lazai donated the full set of Iron Man's technology to the government, he would not need to meet him in person. After a moment of silence, the big shot said, so, there will be a problem that is so powerful that even S.H.I.E.L.D. and their superheroes can't solve it? Yes, Lazai nodded. Although it's hard for me to find solid and credible evidence for what I said, I still want to say it. Please believe me. The big shot thought for a while and said, tell me about your solution. He didn't ask what the problem was, but asked Lazai to give a solution. It seems that the government officials of this term are all practical people, and they have a good eye for personnel. Lazai nodded silently in his heart. I'm afraid it depends on what kind of strength we can bring out. Lazai didn't say that we can do this and that just because the big shot valued him. He didn't know the situation in the country. Does the S.H.I.E.L.D. really exist? The big shot instantly got the point that Lazai was concerned about. The military situation of the Celestial Empire has always been a mystery to the whole world. Putting down the teacup, the big man nodded and said, Zheng Xian will talk to you in detail about what you want to know later. I need to go back and discuss the things you said with others, but I believe that on the principle of protecting the Earth, our ideas should be consistent. Before leaving, the big man looked at Lazai and said earnestly, do a good job. After all, This world still belongs to you young people. The big man's time is very precious. It is rare for him to take half an hour out of his busy schedule to meet with Lizaya. As for whether he would believe the doomsday crisis that Lizaya said, Lizaya did not dare to hold too much hope. After all, such things are a bit alarmist. However, Lizaya was very grateful for the big man's attitude. No matter what, he at least provided an opportunity for cooperation. As long as Lizaya can grasp it, he will definitely make Chinese people have a different voice in this world. After sending the big man away, the tea master stayed. She brewed tea calmly as before, and her temperament was as elegant as orchid. Looking at the tea master's imaginative figure, Lizaya was a little uneasy. The big man did not take this girl with him when he left. Could it be that this was a reward for his contribution to the steel soldier technology? This is really embarrassing. Mr. La, the tea master suddenly said after placing a cup of fresh tea in front of Lizaya. Excuse me, but may I ask what school you belong to and who your master is? Do you need to ask about the other person's origins just to make friends? This reward is really high-end. Wait, she said her last name is Zhang. Thank you for the 600 New Year's money from Leisure Time Fantasy. Thank you for your support. It seems that there are still many friends who like to watch domestic dramas, so I will continue to wander around. Chapter 145 Under one person. Zhang has been a big surname in China since ancient times, and the surname population ranking has always been in the top 3. In history, there are too many celebrities with the surname Zhang, such as Zhang Yi, Zhang Liang, Zhang Zongjin, Zhang F, Zhang Zhao, Zhang Heng, etc. Lizaya searched all the memories about Marvel in his mind, and only found one person with the surname Zhang, who was a pseudonym of Mandarin, Zhang Tong. Could it be that this tea master is the descendant of Mandarin pseudonym Zhang Tong? But don't blame Lizaya for looking down on Mandarin. If Mandarin had the ability to cultivate a descendant that could be trusted by the big shots, he wouldn't have to control Tony Stark and spend so much effort, and even take action for a potential threat himself. It's too embarrassing. Apart from this, Lizaya didn't think of any other people related to Zhang. After all, Marvel was drawn by Americans, and the Chinese dynasty was almost non-existent in it, and there were even fewer Chinese people with names. I didn't know the existence of the S.H. That is because Lizaya searched for a small comic that couldn't be said on the internet. I don't know how I found it. Moreover, it has been so long that he basically doesn't remember the few Chinese superheroes who are just for show. He only remembers that there seems to be one called Sun Wukong, whose appearance is very eye-catching, making people want to beat the shit out of the cartoonist. Sure enough, the image of the Chinese with bald heads and pigtails will not be easily erased in the eyes of the Americans. However, Lizaya remembered that there were also female superheroes in the Shield. Although he did not feel the extraordinary energy in the tea master, he did not dare to guarantee that all the extraordinary powers in the world could be detected by him. Just now, from the tone of the big man, this tea master Ms. Zhang seemed to be a person with a family background, and there might be some 1,000-year-old sect behind her. In this case, it can explain why she was responsible for accompanying the big man to meet Lizaya, and why the big man would be bold enough to meet Lizaya, an outsider, with only him. It can also explain why China can keep its own peace in the troubled Marvel world. I am only a disciple of a small sect. Miss Zhang probably hasn't heard of it. Lizaya took the teacup and took a sip. She was a little bit confused in her heart. Was she trying to show off again but got screwed? She couldn't be so unlucky. Thinking back carefully, when the tea master showed the natural energy and back pattern just now, it seemed that he didn't have any emotional fluctuations. China is vast and rich in resources. After thousands of years of inheritance, the method of cultivating natural energy may really be nothing. If Brother Le didn't tell you, how would you know that I haven't heard of it? The tea master poured herself a cup of tea and changed the address. The term brother is similar to world brother. In fairy and martial arts stories, it is a polite way to address peers from other sects. The fragrance of tea wafted in the air, and the style of the painting in the quiet room suddenly changed. Before, Lizaya was discussing the doomsday aliens with the big shot, but suddenly it became a mutual exchange between the descendants of two martial arts schools. The development of this story is a bit fragmented. Lazia really wants to cover her face and ask, "Sister, is this still the Marvel world?" Well, Zhang, senior sister Zhang, Lazia could only follow the Tea Master's path no matter how awkward he felt. After all, this was not his home ground. Just now, he thought that this was a delicious gift that could be exchanged, without affecting the reading series, but in the blink of an eye, the other party became an unfathomable master, and there were probably no less than 10 powerful players ambushing outside, but Lazia couldn't do anything with them, because he was here to make friends. Since it's all said, I won't hide it. Have you heard of the Fairyland? The Tea Master's fingers moved slightly. I wonder which Fairyland Senior Brotherla is talking about. Kunlun or Pengalai? The Tea Master was not too surprised by the name of the Fairyland. In the Marvel world, there is not only a Fairyland, but also more than one. It is said that there are a total of 7, and the most famous one is the Kunlun Fairyland. Iron Fist in the Defenders is the most representative superhero who came out of the Kunlun Fairyland. The Fairyland will not be opened easily. Even if it is opened, ordinary people don't know the opening time and place, so the Fairyland has always been a mystery to ordinary people. The Fairyland and the secular world can basically be considered isolated. But if it is a 1,000-year-old sect, after a long time, there is always the possibility of intersection with the Fairyland, and it is even very likely that they themselves are from a Fairyland. Shaking his head, Lazia continued to deceive. Neither. The Fairyland is the Fairyland, located between the present world and the netherworld, where the Taoist priests who protect the continent and the Fairyland live. My teacher Tong, who is from the Fairyland. The Tea Master knew that the existence of the Fairyland caught Lazia off guard, but he had no way to make up a more awesome origin for Tong Hu and himself, so he could only use the settings in the Pluto mythology to force an explanation. It's hard to say whether it can fool the Tea Master, but it's much better than making up a nonsense about the Long U Mountain and Shai Mansion or something like that. The more vague and mysterious it is, the more mysterious it is. Diao Dayashi, the Tea Master muttered the word. I haven't heard of it, but from what Senior Brother said, you are also from the Taoist lineage. The 18-plus artist Teshiramu didn't say whether Diao Dayashi was a Taoist or not, but since he was called a Taoist, he naturally leaned towards Taoism. Lazia nodded. Of course he is from the Taoist lineage. The Tea Master suddenly sat up straight, clasped his fists and said in a proper manner, Zhang Linu, the successor of Tanshai Mansion, greets Senior Brotherla. Lazia almost sprayed a mouthful of tea on Zhang Linu's face. He just thought of Long U Mountain Tanshai Mansion, and a successor of Tanshai Mansion appeared across from him. It was too coincidental. Zhang Linu didn't pause and continued. Tanshai Mansion was passed down from the Han Dynasty. The ancestor's name was Heng. He was the founder of Tanshai Mansion. He was also the person who had seen aliens, as Li Gong said just now. Lazia was completely confused. Zhang Linu's words translated into modern Chinese means that her ancestor was Zhang Heng, the founder of Tanshai Mansion, who had seen aliens during the Han Dynasty. It is indeed a 1,000-year-old sect. Is it really good that such a big news was revealed in the 3rd chapter of the domestic chapter? No wonder the big shot can be fearless. With the disciples of Tanshai Mansion accompanying him, he is naturally in a safe position. However, isn't Zhang Heng an astronomer? When I was a child, I read a text about him watching the stars at night. Later, he invented the seismometer. Now you tell me that he was once the leader of a demon cult. What an international joke this is. Fooling fools. Zhang Lin smiled freely. There are many rumors in the world, and emperors of all dynasties have prejudices against our Tanshai Mansion, so the official history is naturally different from the oral tradition. In addition, my ancestor has achievements in astronomy, mathematics, geography and other fields. This is a fact. P.S. In the official history, the astronomer, geographer and inventor Zhang Heng is not the same person as the second ancestor of Tanshai Dao, Zhang Heng. Here they have merged and have seen aliens. After all, this is a parallel world and everything is possible. Chapter 146 Palm Thunder. Lazia didn't read many Marvel comics, so he didn't know what kind of existence Zhang Heng was in the Marvel world. According to ancient legends, spears were in the east and shields were in the west. It is said that more than 2,000 years ago BC, a disaster broke out that was enough to destroy the solar system. However, under the leadership of the hero Amitabh, humans eventually eliminated the enemy and guarded the solar system and the Earth. The weapons, spears and shields, that Amitabh had used were left to future generations. The shield was in the west, and his successors established SHIELD, and the spear was in the east, and its former successor was Zhang Heng of the Han dynasty. In the world where Lizaya lives, Zhang Heng not only talked to a huge alien mechanical life female god more than 2,000 years ago, but also saved the Earth from her hands by talking. P.S. I have to complain that in the comic book Legend of the Holy Shield, Zhang Heng actually climbed to the top of a tower that was more than 10 stories high by relying on an external ladder. The brain circuits of foreign painters are really amazing. Moreover, astronomer Zhang Heng also invented many instruments such as the seismometer, and in his spare time, he participated in the creation of a 1,000-year-old sect, the Danshai Mansion. Zhang Heng was even busier than Du Fu. Zhang Lin saw some doubts in Lizia's eyes, and she suddenly felt unhappy. Zhang Lin and the Danshai Mansion behind her have always been close partners of the Celestial Empire government, and now, this fake foreign devil from outside seems to be suspected of catching up. Although the big man did not say it clearly, his actions have already explained everything. And more importantly, the Danshai Mansion was despised. I don't know what's so wonderful about your natural energy. Can you show it to me? The provocative meaning in Zhang Lin's words was obvious. Since ancient times, there has been no first in literature and no second in martial arts. Although she and Lizia are both Taoists, as a genius of the Danshai Mansion, Zhang Lin really wants to know what Lizia is capable of. Lizia looked up. The quiet room was very large. There were some cameras in the hidden corners around. Obviously, many people were paying close attention to what was happening inside. I'm afraid that behind those cameras, there were many people who had the same idea as Zhang Lin. Lizia had already prepared for this. It is said that it is easy to see the king of hell, but difficult to deal with the little ghosts. The big guys can use Lizia without hesitation for the sake of the country and the people, but there are so many people below, and everyone has their own ideas. If you want them to agree with you, it is not as simple as setting a fire and showing your back. In the end, you still have to fight. After drinking the tea in her hand, Lizia put down the teacup and declined Zhang Lin's kindness to refill the cup. Sister Zhang, although our time is not too tight, I am really not used to talking in a roundabout way. Let's just say it directly. Zhang Lin also breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. She herself was not the kind of person who likes to intrigue with others. The so-called tranquility like chrysanthemum and temperament like orchid was just forced by her father to practice since she was a child. In fact, she is also a person who likes to be straightforward. Since senior brother Le said so, I won't be polite. Mr. Li trusts and values you so much. The old guys will naturally have opinions. So if you can't show off your skills today, it will be difficult for you to walk out of this door peacefully. Lizia tilted her head and looked at Zhang Lin. Just the old gentleman? Don't you want to know how powerful I am? Zhang Lin shook her head. Me? I'm just a tea maker. It doesn't matter to me whether you are powerful or not. Your opponent is someone else. As soon as Zhang Lin finished speaking, the door of the quiet room was pushed open, and a young man with long hair, wearing a Taoist robe, and a little cinnabar on his forehead walked in. I am Zhang Lin from the Danshai Mansion, and I came to ask senior brother Le for advice. Zhang Lin? Lizia looked at Zhang Lin with some doubts. Zhang Lin smiled and explained, this is my twin brother, the most powerful of our generation. You have to be careful. Your parents really save trouble when calling the brother and sister the same name. Lizia complained and stood up and walked towards Zhang Lin. I am the disciple of teacher Tongnu of Fairyland. I am Lizia. Please give me some advice, senior brother Zhang. After Zhang Lin returned the greeting, the two stood in the middle of the quiet room. No one needed to shout to start. After the two were ready, they both lit up at the same time. The difference was that Lizia's body was a piece of fire, while Zhang Lin's body was a ball of golden light. The golden light on Zhang Lin's body seemed to be a kind of qi, which could enhance his strength and speed, and also had some more magical functions, such as transforming into a huge palm or weapon with qi. Lazia's flame was not inferior. In addition to having a very high temperature, it could also turn into a firebird shockwave and cause huge wind pressure. Although the two people's fight was very restrained, the destructive power was amazing. The quiet room of hundreds of square meters was turned upside down, making it like a typhoon passing through, and even the wooden roof was blown away. In the whole room, only the 3-foot square area next to Zhang Lin could remain intact. After fighting for 10 minutes, the two stood on the left and right, and the battle situation was evenly matched. Brother Le is indeed very skilled. I can't beat you with fists and feet. Now, I can only use my best skills. Zhang Lin raised his hand, and a silver-white lightning burst out from his palm. My move is called Palm Thunder. Although the name is very vulgar, the power is huge. Brother Le, be careful. After Zhang Lin finished speaking, the clouds in the sky suddenly surged, and dark clouds quickly gathered overhead. In the thick clouds, electric snakes swam everywhere. This picture inexplicably reminded Lazai of Thor's hammer, which he had said goodbye to for a long time. When he was tempering himself with Thor's hammer in the wilderness, it was such a scene. As the clouds continued to gather, a lightning flash suddenly jumped into the sky from Zhang Lin's palm, entangled with the electric snake in the thundercloud, and quickly established a connection. And Zhang Lin also began to chant the spell. 9 heavens mysterious break, transformed into divine thunder, magnificent heavenly might. Zhang Lin, who was standing next to her, covered her pretty face with embarrassment. This spell was obviously not a palm thunder spell, but came from a popular novel. She never thought that her brother would openly suffer from the second-year syndrome in such an important occasion. Wasn't he afraid that the old guys at home would be mad to death? Looking at the powerful thunder, Lazia not only did not escape, but took a few steps forward. It didn't matter whether it was a spell or not. If you can use the Excalibur Thunder Control secret, it would be better. I just ask you to strike me quickly. Since Thor's hammer returned to Asgard with Thor, Lazia hasn't experienced the pleasure of being struck by thunder for a long time, which improves the realm in pain. Please whip me hard with your thunder. No need to pity, just to say, there are no villains in the domestic chapter. Chapter 147 100,000 volts. With a mere human body, he caused the thunder to descend upon the world. This Zhang Lin deserves to be called the strongest person among his peers. With this thunder technique alone, he can crush the electric man by several streets and approach the Asgardian artifact Thor's hammer. He is simply a human-shaped hammer. Lazia looked at the hammer with excitement. No, he looked at the increasing power of thunder and lightning in Zhang Lin's hand and showed his strongest state at the same time. In a familiar BGM, the giant holy clothes were instantly put on. This was a responsibility for himself and a respect for his opponent. After Zhang Lin activated the thunder, he had been observing Lazia's reaction. He knew how powerful the thunder was. Although he was pushed out as a challenger, he didn't want to really do anything to Lazia. He even had the idea of letting Lazia go. After all, if someone was really injured, no one would look good. But Lazia's excited reaction made Zhang Lin feel that if he really let Lazia go, the other party might not be happy. In any case, he must use his greatest strength and go all out. Therefore, when the lightning ball in his palm condensed into the size of a fitness ball, Zhang Lin felt that he was about to reach his limit, but he insisted on condensing the lightning ball into the size of a water tank without stopping, until the diameter of the lightning ball grew to 2 meters away, and he even needed 2 hands to hold it above his head. A row of cold sweat quietly slid down Lazia's head. This is not the true art of the divine sword to control lightning. This is a vitality bomb. Until he felt that if he didn't push the lightning ball out, he would explode first. Zhang Lin swung his hand down fiercely, shouting, "It's up to you. Go ahead." 100,000 volts. The lightning ball was instantly pushed to Lazia, and the white thunder instantly enveloped him and exploded. It was more than 100,000 volts. The huge destructive power blew everything within a radius of dozens of meters into the sky. And where Lazia was, A huge mushroom cloud even exploded. "Are you crazy?" As early as when Zhang Linyu threw the thunderball, Zhang Linyu suddenly disappeared from the spot and appeared in front of him, holding a yellow talisman paper in her hand, and said coquettishly, "Edict." The yellow paper grew in the wind and quickly turned into a huge golden bell, covering the two of them inside and blocking the power of the explosion. The mushroom cloud explosion directly blew the manor where the quiet room was located into the ground. Within more than 100 meters, it was like scorched earth, without a single tile left. "Don't you want to come? Why did you put so much effort into condensing the thunder that you can't even control? Now you are stupid, right? If it weren't for me, you would have died in it." Facing Zhang Linyu's scolding, Zhang Linyu shrugged indifferently. "Don't those old guys want to know his strength? If I just fight a little, how can I test his true strength?" "Then you show off your ability, regardless of your foundation, and force yourself to overdraw your cultivation?" Zhang Linyu looked disappointed. It is true that her brother is the genius and hope of the Tanshai mansion. As a sister, she also doesn't want him to make any mistakes. Zhang Linyu's eyes moved. "My shackles are loosened a little." "What?" Zhang Linyu turned around suddenly, with a surprised expression on his face. In front of him, the mushroom cloud of the explosion began to slowly disperse, revealing a standing figure in the middle. Countless pairs of eyes stared at the figure 100 meters away, and even the Zhang siblings stopped talking and turned to look. The smoke and dust dispersed, and Lazia's body became clear. He was wearing a silver-white combined armor. The overall structure of the armor was not damaged, but there were some scratches on the surface. Under the blue sky, the broken hair on Lazia's head fluttered in the wind, and his face flashed a smile as warm as the sun. Obviously, the thunder just now did not cause much damage to him, and his spirit was even fuller than before. Standing upright, Lazia reached out and patted the dust on his hair and body, then raised his head and raised his chin to Zhang Linyu. "Friend, the thunderball just now was very refreshing. Can you give me another one? I can go back to the United States and inherit tens of billions of assets. I can pay for it." The powerful thunderball just now was completely dispersed by Lazia's sonic punch. With the experience of Thor's hammer and the blessing of the new giant seat holy clothes, such attacks can help him strengthen his body, but they no longer pose a threat. After listening to Lazia's call, Zhang Linyu whispered, "What did you say just now that it was loose?" Zhang Linyu turned around expressionlessly. "I want to go back to the mountain gate for retreat and tell everyone that even if the world is destroyed, don't call me out again." After saying that, Zhang Linyu raised his legs and left cleanly. "I also want to go back to retreat." Zhang Linyu exhaled. As the young generation of Tanshai Mansion, the two of them do not value power and status as much as those old people. The difference is that Zhang Linyu has been the hope of Tanshai Mansion since he was a child because of his extraordinary talent, so he can spend more time and energy on cultivation. Zhang Linyu's physique is different from Zhang Linyu's. She has almost no way to practice any skills. She can only use talismans through secret methods to increase her combat effectiveness and self-protection, so she doesn't need to take time to practice. And with the support of the Tanshai Mansion, she doesn't need to study talismans herself, as long as she knows how to use them. Their father forced them to use their free time to learn how to manage sect affairs and deal with secular relationships. But with the status of the Tanshai Mansion, how could the people they come into contact with be ordinary people? They are all experienced veterans. Zhang Linyu has long been tired of such a life. It can even be said that in the entire Tanshai Mansion, she is the one who most hopes that Zhang Linyu will lose this challenge. Now, Zhang Linyu has lost as he wished, and Zhang Linyu can finally unload the burden on his shoulders. "Hey, why is he gone?" Lazia walked to Zhang Linyu and asked in confusion, "Is there anyone else who can set off thunder? Call them out quickly, my fists are thirsty." Although he was a little happy in his heart, the play on Zhang Linyu still had to continue. As expected, he is a person that even the director of the U.S. Shield values. Senior brother La is really skilled. I admire him. Lazia blinked. "Well, I just turned 18. May I ask how old I am?" The corner of Zhang Linyu's eye twitched. "I call myself a younger sister out of modesty, but you are so rude." Ignoring Lazia's question, Zhang Linyu clasped her hands together and bowed. Senior Brother Le is extraordinary in skills. Our Tenshai Mansion is willing to admit defeat. I hope Senior Brother Le can give us more guidance in the future. In the future? Lizaya glanced at Zhang Linnu's curvy figure. Her eyes were almost blinded by the stunning beauty on her face. Everything can be discussed in the future. A black SUV drove up and stopped. A short man in a suit got out of the car. It was Zhang Xian. Miss Zhang, Daola. After Zhang Xian got out of the car and greeted the two, he looked at the empty space around him in confusion and scratched the back of his head. Well, I shouldn't have gone to the wrong place, right? Shouldn't there be a manor here? Brother Xian. Lizaya also scratched the back of his head. Well, I'm afraid I have to ask the owner here. That, he, Zhang Xian said with a stern face. I am the owner here. This is the office just assigned to me by the higher-ups. Lizaya looked at Zhang Linnu. Our brother. No, where is junior brother Zhang? He owes brother Xian an explanation. I would like to recommend a conscientious Chinese comic under one person and borrow a few character names and settings to show my respect. Thank you Winsky for the 200 reward. Thank you Crazy Me for the 500 reward. Thank you God's Fairy Tale for the 500 reward. Thank you Lifan, Aus for the 500 reward. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 148 Brother Xian's Home. Brother Xian has been in a good mood recently. After returning from the United States, he was immediately entrusted with an important task. This trust made him feel a little flattered. On the way here, Zhang Xian was humming a song. The driver Lao Qin, who had known him for more than 10 years, thought that his wife had given birth to a second child, but after arriving at the destination, Zhang Xian was stunned when he saw the devastation. Where is the manor that was promised? Where is the office that was promised? Did they get a piece of land for me to build it myself? Turning to ask Lizaya and Zhang Linnu, he saw that the two of them looked a little subtle. Their eyes dodged, and they looked like they were thinking hard. You are on the scene. Do you need to act like this? Your acting skills are too bad. You have met. What is the result? Putting aside the matter of the homestead, Zhang Xian prepared to ask about Lizaya's meeting with domestic colleagues. It is normal for such foreign monks to be harassed by local bald donkeys. Lizaya glanced at Zhang Linnu and nodded. I have met her. I am very satisfied. Zhang Xian had met Lizaya's secretary Felicia in the United States. He thought he knew Lizaya's character very well, so he kindly reminded her, Miss Zhang's identity is not simple. Daola, you didn't neglect her, did you? This sentence clearly expressed the position of the two in Zhang Xian's heart. Obviously, Lizaya was more like his own. Zhang Linnu suddenly felt that the old guys in the Tenshai Mansion were a little behind the times. They wanted to show off their power to others, but in the end they didn't make their position clear at all. Come to think of it, the masters trained by the Tenshai Mansion for so many years are basically affiliated with the Tenshai Mansion. And Lizaya contributed her skills and techniques for free as soon as she came out. It's clear who is superior and who is inferior. After thinking this through, Zhang Linnu bowed and said, my brother has met Senior Brother Le, and I took the liberty to ask for a few tricks. Senior Brother Le is more skilled, and my Tenshai Mansion is willing to admit defeat. Zhang Xian was instantly enlightened when he heard it. He finally waited for the day when your Tenshai Mansion admitted defeat. However, the government has cooperated with Tenshai Mansion for many years, so naturally they will not kick them out. This time, they just took advantage of Lizaya's surrender to give them a slight warning. Both of them are smart people, so they didn't say much nonsense. After a few words, they understood each other's meaning and said goodbye and left. After seeing Zhang Linnu off, Zhang Xian took Lizaya to the off-road vehicle, and Lao Qin started the car to another base of Xinmao Bureau. On the way, Zhang Xian asked about the situation of Lizaya's battle with Zhang Linnu, and was very satisfied with Lizaya's clean and neat victory over Zhang Linnu. After all, he brought Lizaya back to the country. Lizaya's victory over Tenshai Mansion was equivalent to Zhang Xian's victory over Tenshai Mansion. After praising, Zhang Xian began to tell Lizaya about the current situation of Xinmao Bureau. Xinmao Bureau has a long history. It was passed down from Zhang He, an astronomer in the Han Dynasty, and has existed for nearly 2,000 years. However, due to various reasons, Xinmao Bureau has always been a semi-underground organization and has not surfaced. Recently, with the change of the times, Shinmao Bureau is about to officially step onto the world stage and send a voice from the East to the world. It's time to let those arrogant Americans listen to the voice from the East. Brothers yawn. We have a long way to go. Lazier recalled the subsequent plot of the Marvel Cinematic Universe in his mind, trying to find a suitable entry point for the S.H. that is, Bureau. Zheng Xian smiled and shook his head. The long road ahead is like iron, but now we start from the beginning. Lazier replied, nothing is difficult in the world as long as you are willing to climb. The two looked at each other and laughed, and everything was self-evident. The S.H. that is, Bureau is an emergency intelligence collection agency directly under the Prime Minister. It has more than 150,000 public agents, analysts and supervisors, an unparalleled scientific department and the most advanced surveillance network in the world, and has multiple flying ships. The big man who received Lazier before was the only direct superior of the S.H. that is, Bureau. Zheng Xian once again refreshed Lazier's understanding of the world. Space carriers are not just the patent of the United States. We also have spacecraft. Unfortunately, the legendary Sky Fortress, the Ring headquarters, was under construction, so Lazier had no chance to see its true appearance. However, just by listening to Zheng Xian's introduction, she knew that it was not much weaker than the space carrier of S.H.I.E.L.D., and it might even be stronger. This gave Lazier a full sense of national pride. After the jeep arrived at the base, Lazier saw another special warfare unit of our army, the Jialong Commando, and a special warfare team with a low profile but outstanding achievements. The number of Jialongs was not large. Although all of them were just ordinary people, they were all ace among aces, and they could easily defeat a unit with a piece of black technology equipment. The captain's surname was Yang, a heroic man in his 30s, who was serious and stern. After seeing Lazier, he saluted respectfully and did not say much afterwards. Jialong will be stationed in the Shinmao Bureau in the future to help us perform special tasks. Later, another special operations force will be drawn from other troops. You will have a chance to meet them. After saying goodbye to Captain Yang, Zheng Xian continued to introduce to Lazier, we will give priority to promoting the natural qi cultivation method you provided in the military, but according to the experience of the Tenshai Mansion, the younger the age, the greater the possibility of success and talent in practicing the method, so we will also promote it in major primary and secondary schools, and actively select talents that can be cultivated. Lazier did not raise any objections to Zheng Xian's arrangement. He was just a person responsible for providing the method. How to use it, of course, was decided by the person in charge. With the execution ability of the Shinmao Bureau, I believe this is not a difficult thing to do. However, based on Lazier's experience, there are probably not many people who can comprehend the natural energy. The Jialong Commando has appeared. As you can see, I'm going to start to hang out. Chapter 149 5 Big Men. For things like promoting Senyuo Wangxian, if Lazier is asked to find apprentices by himself, he must first verify their qualifications and then teach them step by step. It would be time-consuming and laborious to teach a large number of Taoist carvings, and he might also be sued by many parents as a liar. However, it is different if the country promotes it from top to bottom, especially if it is promoted in all primary and secondary schools like radio gymnastics. Parents will definitely attach different importance to it. How can the things taught in school be bad? Of course, children should be made to learn them desperately. They can't let them lose at the starting line. Just imagine that during the break and physical education classes, hundreds or thousands of students will sit together to meditate and practice qi. When they practice deeply, everyone will take off their shirts. A tiger will appear on your back, a leopard head will appear on my back, and a pink Peppa Pig will appear on his back. The playground will instantly become a black society gathering. The scene will definitely be quite spectacular. After a brief tour of the base, Zheng Xian took Lazier to a meeting room. Lazier suddenly thought of a question. By the way, Brothers Yan, I haven't asked you what position you have assigned to me yet. Do I have shoulder straps? How many bars and stars do I have? Lazier was particularly envious of those special identities who could do whatever they wanted in various agencies with just a small notebook. Although he now has the ability to ignore those power agencies, The yearning in his heart has not completely disappeared. We are not a military unit, so we don't have shoulder straps. Is that so? Lazia felt a little regretful. There is a saying that a man will regret 3 years of military service, and a lifetime of regret if he doesn't. Lazia has always longed for the military uniform and the glory of the mission since he was a child. Zheng Xian paused and said, "Your current position is SHIELD, consultant. This identity is flexible and will not affect your domestic and foreign operations. The level is probably equivalent to that of a prefect." SHIELD, consultant. Isn't that the same as Zodiac's position in SHIELD? Sure enough, I am still destined to be with Iron Man, which is not bad. If you really want shoulder straps, it's not impossible to consider it. I can apply for it. Hearing that Zheng Xian actually took it seriously, Lazia quickly declined. "I was just joking, don't bother." "Prefect, no one in my family has ever been such a high official for 18 generations. I can be considered an honor to my family." Haha. Zheng Xian knew that Lazia was an orphan, and it was a bit sad to hear him say this. Patting Lazia on the shoulder, Zheng Xian took him to a spacious office. "Come, let me introduce you to some friends." In the office, Lazia saw a burly man, or to be exact, 5 burly men, but their hairstyles, clothes, looks, expressions, and movements were all exactly the same, so much so that Lazia felt as if he had double vision in front of his eyes. Seeing the 2 people come in, 5 people stood up at the same time and saluted respectfully. "Hello, Chief." "Hello, hello, this is no longer the army. You can just call me Director from now on." Zheng Xian smiled and said politely, then let Lazia step aside and said, "Come, let me introduce you. This is Lazia, a fellow brother who returned from the United States and a consultant to RS.H. that is, Bureau." When you were watching the video before, weren't you curious about who the Saint Seiya was? This is him. Lazia's identity was not concealed from Zheng Xian, and at Zheng Xian's instruction, it had begun to spread in a small range. After hearing this, the 5 people looked at Lazia in unison, raised their arms and pointed at their eyebrows. "Chief, don't." Lazia hurriedly stopped him. "What kind of chief am I? I'm just an elementary school student in the hero world, a half-baked sand sculpture Saint Seiya. You cursed me a lot. Don't salute me, I'm unworthy." Zheng Xian also said beside him, "We will all be colleagues in the future. Don't salute at every turn, just shake hands." These 5 people are surnamed Tao. They are quintuplets. He is a superhero of our Tanchao military. His name is Wanzongxia. The quintuplets Tao Yuhan, Tao Yuzhang, Tao Yulin, Tao Yuzhen, Tao Yu, a group of 5 brothers who can completely synchronize and share any situation. They should actually be considered mutants, and their mutant ability is the combination of 5 people. 5 people, each of them has a physical fitness far beyond that of ordinary people. After the 5 people combine, their ability values completely crush Captain America. The reason why they are called Wanzongxia is that in addition to the combination of 5 people, they can also gain tremendous power by sensing the life energy of all Chinese people. This is actually the magnification of their mutant abilities. All Chinese are his brothers, and between brothers, strength and spirit are shared. After gathering all Chinese, Wanzongxia can activate the skill 1 billion divine power. In the comics, he once broke a shield made of vibranium similar to Captain America with one punch. Unfortunately, Lazia didn't know their existence, and had no concept of the title of Wanzongxia. He didn't even know that as a member of the Chinese, he would be a cornerstone of the cohesion of Wanzongxia. After the 2 signs introduced themselves, they sat down on the chairs again. The 5 people stared at Lazia with their eyes straight and didn't say anything. The atmosphere suddenly became very awkward. Being stared at by 5 burly men with the same appearance, Lazia suddenly became a little at a loss. "I'm not a girl. Is it okay for you to stare at me like this?" Zheng Xian also noticed the subtlety of the atmosphere. He was afraid that if this continued, the 5 people would not be able to help but ask for a challenge. In order to avoid embarrassment, he took Lazia out of the office and walked to the laboratory on the other side. After leaving the house, Zheng Xian explained the abilities of the 5 people to Lazia. Lazia had never heard of the setting of Wanzongxia before, and was immediately shocked when she heard it. She had only heard of the technique of multiple shadow clones and infinite personality split before, but she didn't expect that there was really a technique of fusion. What is this? I will form the head? Lizaya suddenly thought of a question. I wonder if these 5 brothers are married. Zheng Xian thought about it. I don't think so. Why do you ask? Are you still interested in helping people match? Of course, Lizaya would not help people match. He just thought of a question. If the 5 brothers of Wanzhongzai marry wives, should they marry the same person or marry one each? There should be 5 people registered on their ID cards. If 5 people marry the same person, the laws of the Celestial Empire will definitely not allow it, and it is not morally acceptable. But if they each marry one, according to the abnormal setting that the 5 brothers can completely share any state synchronously, then when they are having sex, isn't it equivalent to one person fucking 5 girls at the same time? What the hell is this feeling? I can't figure it out. There was a bug in the previous chapter. The protagonist didn't know about Zhang Heng's existence. It has been fixed. Chapter 150 Emergency. Zheng Xian originally wanted to take Lizaya to visit Dr. Chen's nuclear physics laboratory next door, but an agent who came in a hurry interrupted his next plan. The agent did not avoid Lizaya, who was beside Zheng Xian, and said directly, "Director, the intelligence department has received news that the man has appeared again." Zheng Xian's face flashed a hint of surprise and then became solemn. "Are you sure it is that man?" The agent nodded. "We are more than 80% sure." "Okay, notify the garrison to try to stabilize the situation. Our people will be here soon." After Zheng Xian gave the order, he turned around and looked at Lizaya with some regret. "Lizaya, it seems that I can't accompany you to hang out today. Something happened and I need to deal with it." "Director, what happened? Can I help?" "After all, I am also a member of the Xinmao Bureau," Lizai asked, and called the director directly. After all, they had already met, and it seemed a bit unkind to hide now. "Okay, we'll be more confident with you here. Let's go out first and talk on the way." Zheng Xian seemed to be waiting for Lizai to say this. He didn't hesitate at all and took him out directly. In the armed helicopter, Lizai and Zheng Xian sat opposite each other, and the 5 brothers of the Tao family sat a little further away. "Brothers Yan, what's the situation? Can you tell me?" "It's like this." Zheng Xian roughly told Lizai the cause of the matter, except that he couldn't say it. This was a bad guy, helpless face. Anyway, the Shield Bureau is responsible for dealing with criminals with extraordinary powers, and heroes with extraordinary powers must be used, such as the Wanzongxia who have joined the Shield Bureau. The helicopter flew for more than an hour before it stopped in the deep mountains. From a distance, a war and gunpowder smoke could be seen. It looked like 2 armies were exchanging fire. It was hard to imagine that one of the signs had only one person. The walkie-talkie in Zheng Xian's hand suddenly rang, and a rough voice shouted, "You are too late. We have blocked him outside the barracks, and the soldiers have built a defense line. It depends on my mood whether to capture him alive or dead." Zheng Xian leaned on the glass of the plane and looked down. "Old Li, don't be careless. That man is a bit evil, otherwise the 2 garrisons in X County and Y County would not be so easily breached." "Don't worry," the voice on the other side said viciously. "They were just unprepared and caught off guard by this bastard. Now we are well prepared. He dared to come. He is so bold. You just watch from the sky and see how I deal with this bastard." After putting away the walkie-talkie, Zheng Xian was still not at ease. He turned to the 5 brothers of the Tao family and said, "Although Old Li is prepared, we don't know what other tricks that man will have. Let's go down and take a look at the situation first." The 5 brothers nodded, stood up from their seats at the same time and walked towards the open cabin door. When they arrived at the cabin door, the 5 figures had merged into one. Just like the camera panned from the front to the side around the 5 people standing in a row, the others seemed to be blocked, but in fact they had already merged together. Lizai curled her lips. "I thought you would shout a spell and pose or something." Although this silent way of merging saves money, the effect is far worse than that of Japanese comics. Without Zheng Xian's instruction, Lizai took the initiative to follow Wanzongxia to the hatch. "Director, I will go down with Captain Tao to check the situation." The rank of the 5 brothers of the Tao family is captain, which is captain in English. Zheng Zian nodded. Be careful. Don't worry. Wan Zhongzai had already jumped down from the hatch, and Lazia did not hesitate to step out of the hatch. The helicopter was dozens of meters away from the ground. With Wan Zhongzai's physique, he would not be injured if he landed at such a height. After landing, Wan Zhongzai glanced at Lazia floating above his head, smiled honestly, and then ran towards the battlefield. Wan Zhongxia has a square face and squinty eyes. He looks silly when he is not smiling, but looks like a fool when he smiles. Lazia did not rush forward, but observed the battlefield from a distance. On the battlefield a few hundred meters away, a slightly thin figure was walking forward steadily step by step in the face of hundreds of gunshots. His arms were raised in front of him, and all the bullets fired at him were deflected by a mysterious force and shot back from his side. He walked in the hail of bullets, but it was like strolling in the garden. After the soldiers found that the bullets were useless, they would naturally try other ways of attack. Rocket launchers, tanks, and cannons opened fire one after another, and shells rained down on the man. Seeing the shells that were 100 times more powerful than bullets coming, the man did not panic. He raised his hand calmly, and a light flashed on his fingers, and a huge vortex formed around his body. The speed of the vortex was so fast that the shells were diverted as soon as they flew into it. Some were even thrown back in the direction they came from, colliding with the shells fired from behind in the air and making a loud explosion. Wan Zhongzai had already run to the front, ready to find an opportunity to join the group. Lazia's heart suddenly skipped a beat. The vortex looked very familiar to him, and the flash on the finger looked like a ring. Could it be that the person who attacked the garrison troops was actually the Mandarin? Is it okay to write it this way? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.